All right, we're finally back. I had some audio issues and some video issues I had to work out. OBS, kind of a pain in the ass to learn, right? It's just too many settings. We're going to pick up where we left off last night. I'm building Strike Gundam, and we're also reacting to this Destiny versus Dinesh D'Souza debate at the same time. Um, if you are watching, I would like for you to, in the chat, if you're able to, let me know how's the audio. If the audio is too low, I can adjust it. I tried to dial it in before the stream started, but I don't know. Sometimes you just get weird issues that you got to deal with when it comes to this kind of thing. So we'll get it going right now. Let me see.
The bogus stuff that Tulsi Gabbard has released.
Try to remember exactly where I was at yesterday.
Investigated by our deep state operatives for like a year leading up to the election. Do you agree that Russia was intervening and interfering with all of the media cycles and everything in our country? Do you agree that Russia had companies, the Internet Research Agency was one of which Manafort turned out indictments about, that he was influencing the election in the United States?
I think that was called the IRGC, right?
Well, that is not what the Russia collusion hoax was about.
Well, but do you agree or disagree with that?
Well, I
that
agree
was
with it in the blasé sense.
Okay.
That I think.
So I think I was a little bit further along.
Build a website you love with Wix. For your words,
It's the election. I make the obvious point: who crime had not already been committed? You said that. It is actually part of the playbook of the FBI.
Okay, we were past this.
Entrapment is when you entice or force.
Okay, this sounds new.
Security agencies, you lie a lot. You lie a lot as part of your diplomacy. You lie a lot as part of what you're paid to do.
They just make shit up.
It is your job to mislead foreign governments. It is your job to mislead people domestically.
Not domestically. You don't mislead your own agencies.
Stop.
You're acting
lying.
like
hold on. You're acting. You asked me a question, which is.
So yesterday we were working on this guy. He's got his arms on now. But this piece came broken. It's supposed to connect right there. So I got some glue, because what I learned yesterday was that regular ass super glue doesn't really adhere well to plastic, especially ABS, I think. So we got this specifically plastic glue. We're gonna try this out.
Is there a reason for Flynn? Let's just say he met with Mr. X, and he is now asked, "Did you meet with Mr. X?" And Flynn could have many good reasons for saying, "No, I didn't." Okay, so did Flynn lie? Yeah, he did.
Wait, give one reason why he should lie to our own FBI about that.
It could be that Flynn is dealing with foreign policy. The FBI comes and who knows what they told Flynn. Let's say they told Flynn, look, we're just investigating embezzlement inside the White House. We need to ask you a bunch of questions. We don't know what they said to Flynn. That's the key point. They come to Flynn under one pretext.
So much of his debate strategy, I guess, or his talking points are revolving around, take notice of this. It's all about, like, he's spinning a narrative, he's making stuff up, he doesn't actually have any evidence, right? But he's going to consistently fall back on this, like, well, we don't have any evidence that it didn't happen, or, you don't have, yeah, basically that. We don't have any evidence that it didn't happen. In science, you don't go off of, like, this is not a good standard. This is called unfalsifiable, like an unfalsifiable claim. It's a claim that you don't really have a way to prove one way or the other. It's not a good way to conduct science, not a good way to engage in, like, critical thinking. And it's because, in his case, he doesn't actually have to provide any evidence. He doesn't have any evidence, and his whole thing is like, well, we don't have any evidence that it didn't happen. And so, like, you can make up any random thing. Like, I could say that you raped somebody. That's like, okay, well, prove that you didn't. How do you prove that you didn't, right? How do you do that? You ran a red light the other day. Prove that you didn't run a red light. Well, do you literally have video evidence of every single time that you've ever driven? No, you probably don't, right? So you can't really prove that.
And they're trying, and the key point here is intention. They came to entrap him. That's the beauty of what Comey said.
So what do you think entrapment is? Entrapment is when I ask you a question, you lie?
No. Entrapment is where you basically go to a guy that you have no basis to suspect, right? In other words, they didn't know. They weren't saying that Flynn did anything. They're like, let's see what we can get on Flynn.
So no, entrapment is when you entice or force somebody to commit a crime that they wouldn't have otherwise committed. If a police officer walks up to you and they say, hey, do you want to buy some illegal drugs? And you say, yeah, sure, that's not entrapment. If a cop comes up to you and he says, you better buy this drug or I'm going to beat the shit out of you or whatever, that would be entrapment. Entrapment is not, I ask you questions and you oopsies lie to me about communicating with Russians as the national security advisor. Jesus.
Well,
right? Like that's on you at that point. Sorry.
I think that when
Ah,
the government sets out to entrap one of their own,
see, and he just repeats it, right?
this is
It just
just downright.
Makes the claim and just repeats it. Hey, do you have any proof that it was entrapment? Oh, no, I don't really have any proof or anything. But you know, when they entrap someone, when the FBI entraps someone, well, wait a second, you still haven't proved that anyone was entrapped. Okay, well, I'm just going to keep repeating it, right? And I'm going to force it to be reality. I'm going to force it into reality just by, like, brute force. Okay, this is the important part. I need to get this lined up correctly. And then I'm supposed to hold this, I guess, for about 60 seconds. Hopefully this actually adheres. 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Let's see how well this does. I can't even start the video because my hands are like occupied right now. So you'll have to bear with me for a minute. Come on. Waiting for that minute to change on the computer. I forget if it told me to hold for 30 seconds or 60 seconds. I mean, it probably doesn't hurt to go 60 seconds. It would be overkill. But what I mean, it's not the biggest deal in the world. If I were to let go and it were to not adhere, I'd just have to reapply it again. Okay, so we're at the minute mark, I think. How's that? Hey, how do we like that? Alright, well, I'm going to kind of take it easy on that part, because I have a feeling that if I mess around with it too much, I'm going to wind up breaking it off again. Unfortunately, it's not like it really has a whole lot of surface area to adhere to. Okay. Alright. Connect his body back on.
Diabolical.
Then why has Trump failed to do it with his political opponents despite being so hungry to do so? Or do you agree, for instance, that the Hunter Biden stuff was just outlandish given that the confidential informant that entire investigation started with, of which Jordan and Gohmert, nobody found any good solid information about this, about Hunter Biden engaged in illegal overseas, not reporting income or whatever. The entire start of that was a confidential informant who's now admitted to lying completely about the origination of that story.
Okay, leaving aside the confidential.
Real quickly, I just want to double check to make sure these audio levels are where I want them to be. Real fast. Because I did shift it a little bit, monitoring. Monitor off. I got it, by the way, finally got a new microphone, Blue Yeti. I haven't really had a chance to put it to use yet. I got it from like kind of refurbished, and the USB cord that connects it to the computer. Actually, let me do some real fast. The USB cord that connects it to the computer. It's kind of weird that this thing's up above my nose. The USB cord that would connect it to the computer ordinarily came with like the pins kind of pushed in. They were like dented in, so I couldn't connect it. So I haven't had a chance to use it. I'm hoping that when I use it, it'll have better audio quality, especially with like I don't want that breathy noise. I don't want that popping sound when I talk or when I breathe in. Especially right now, I'm kind of recovering from a bit of a cold that I had over the weekend or the past weekend, and so I'm a little bit wheezy at the moment. Let me turn this bad boy up a little bit. Yo. Yo, is that too loud? Yo, 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 yo. Hold on. Make sure that I didn't make. Whoa. I didn't make this too loud.
From Burisma.
No, if that was the reported payments, and that was the reported
You
payments.
don't agree that they got the money?
No, I don't disagree with you. I agree.
Oh, you agree. You agree they got the money. Do you believe that Hunter Biden is a expert on minerals and in the Ukraine?
He might be, he might not be. I think he was a business person. He'd been on boards of other business ventures before.
Not to mention
God damn, I gotta turn the monitor off. That freaks me out. Um, they will often say, you know, what does Hunter Biden have any experience in the oil industry and blah 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 blah, right? The role that he served was on their board. The role wasn't he. It's not like he's the person that's out in the oil fields doing, you know, the manual labor or anything. His experience, actually, this is what they don't tell you. He worked for a law firm prior to working at Burisma, and the law firm that he worked with, while he was working there, he was working. One of their clients, some of his clients were energy companies, so he had experience representing energy companies in a legal lawyeristic capacity. So when they say that he didn't have any relevant experience, that's just 150% just absolutely not true. His experience was relevant to the specific job that he had. Now, does that mean that he didn't get the job from a little bit of nepotism? That they didn't look at him and say, hey, you know what? You're Joe Biden's son. You're well connected. We want to put you on the board because, you know, that might look good for our company. It might help us, you know, have some legitimacy in the eyes of the United States. You know, you're probably a well connected person. You probably have good business connections. Yeah, they probably did do that. But I'm sorry to tell you this, that's not, number one, that's not a crime. Number two, that's just going to be the case for anybody who's like rich and famous and successful. They're always going to be people that are well connected, and that businesses and other like business partners are going to look at those people as good people to network with. Um, Keep in mind, by the way, that the Trump family does this right now. They do it all the time. They do it blatantly, and they've made more money doing that same thing. Again, not illegal. Might be, you might consider it unethical. Not illegal, but the Trump family does it all the time, and no one even talks about it.
noted artist. You know, he has done a lot of amazing things. We
He's
know.
more qualified than Witkoff is to talk about Ukraine, and he's currently our ambassador to Putin, and he doesn't even bring his own translator. So Hunter Biden was qualified to sit on the Burisma board, yes.
Yeah.
And if I were to ask you, is there any evidence that he was sat there improperly, you would be able to give me nothing. So let's both agree
I
that
would
he
be
was
able to give
qualified.
you something.
Oh,
I would,
okay.
would be able to give you something.
Okay.
I will give you the evidence, which is now released, of detailed Hunter Biden energy reports, which appear to have been actually lifted from the Biden confidential files. In other words, you said before, Biden didn't even know he had these files. There was no reason for him to have them. Yes, there is a reason.
What files?
The
What are you
reason
talking
is
about?
to cash in on the information, because one of the things that foreign countries want to buy from you is information not available in the public square. And so if you have confidential documents, by and large, all these guys who go into government.
Oh, okay. So I think the claim that he's trying to make is that, you know, Joe Biden had these confidential top secret documents that was sitting in his house. And then he's trying to make the case that Hunter Biden had access to these documents. He has absolutely no evidence that this is the case. He's just making that up, right? You can speculate, you theorize like, oh, maybe he did, but like he's posing it as if he knows that to be true, and he's framing that to his audience to lead them to believe that, you know, they had Hunter Biden on, you know, this conspiracy, dead to rights or something. They don't have any evidence of that. He's just making it up.
Very often when they leave, they become consultants.
Wait, Joe
And there's-
Biden took
hold
classified
on.
information about his son to sell his own son to foreign operatives?
Joe Biden took confidential documents because he realized that they could become the basis for a, quote, insider information that benefited not just Hunter Biden.
So this entire part that he's just making it up, right? What we know about the documents that Joe Biden had is that he had them in a I think a storage like garage or something. That's all we know. This whole thing about he had them because he wanted to use them to help his son, you know, have business opportunities or something. There's no evidence of that. There's not even any evidence that he used those documents at any point in time. So he's just making that up. And he doesn't have any evidence that any of these documents had anything to do with Ukraine or Burisma. He's just making that up as well.
But James Biden, Frank Biden, and Joe Biden himself, don't forget about 10% for the big guy.
Which means not. Okay, so I'm just curious then. So if I were to say Donald Trump does stuff like that, for instance, how he has two of the largest crypto schemes in the world set up right now, where anonymous people can donate to Donald Trump and even be seated to speak with him in the White House, or at Mar-a-Lago, like the event that he did, I guess like a year ago or whatever. Can you show me anything comparable to access to Joe Biden like that, or any evidence whatsoever that he planned to use any of this improperly, or communicated with people improperly, or did anything bad with any of these documents?
Well, we're talking about two different things. You're talking about presidential
I'm asking
fundraising.
for evidence. I agree. I'm talking about facts, and you're giving me tales. Yeah.
I would tell you, the way that fundraising works in the United States is very simple. If you tomorrow had a business and you needed something, and you wrote a $10,000 check to your local congressman, that guy will return your phone calls the next day, if not the day after.
Didn't you just argue against this and saying that you illegally donated money to your friend who was running for Congress up in New York? Are you admitting that that's what you were doing, a quid pro quo?
My friend who ran was basically look.
I could even make a stronger argument, because one of the accusations the prosecutors were making is that your friend introduced you to the person who was the primary funder for one of your documentaries, right?
You have this facile ability to jump leapfrog style to things that have nothing to do with each other.
I can explain the connections if you want. You just claimed if you want to make financing work in the United States, here's how financing works. But earlier, you gave me the exact contrary position of saying just because I'm illegally sending money to a friend running for Congress doesn't mean I'm looking for a quid pro quo. So those are two contradictory positions, and I'm trying to understand the contradiction between.
My friend was...
The sights, the sounds, the styles. Get tickets at Ticketmaster and experience NBA basketball live. Ticketmaster, the official ticket marketplace of the NBA.
I'll tilt this down again so you guys can see.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds
Super
here.
exciting.
Wishing you a very happy half-off holiday, because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited.
Oh my
set
God.
decorator.
This is a weird pet peeve of mine, but I fucking hate his voice. I cannot stand his goddamn voice. It's always the same kind of smarmy fucking voice in every single thing that he does. It annoys the fucking shit out of me, and he's everywhere. Okay, I've seen your movies. I liked Wolverine and the the red dude. I like that, right? But my God, I don't need to have you in every goddamn commercial. I don't need to have you in every fucking movie. I don't need to have you playing the same character, doing the same ingenuine voice that you always do. Like, just shut the fuck up. God damn.
Exotic campaign in New York. She was running because a Dartmouth woman, Kristen Gillibrand, was the sitting senator. And so my friend Wendy Long said, I think I can raise some issues in the campaign. I said, don't run, Wendy. You're going to lose by 40 or 50 points. And she goes, okay, but if I run, will you help me? And I go, well, if you run, I'll try to help you. So this was the basis on which I supported a candidate who had no chance to win, lost by 40 points. I had nothing to get out of it. And so what I'm getting at is we were talking a moment ago about how presidents raise money and are solicitous of people who give them money. And I'm granting that on both parties, this is very common.
But again, like this whole thing that he does, he'll spin stories, he'll spin narratives, he'll spin conspiracies, and then he'll treat it like he'll talk about it as if that's already been established. He already has evidence of it. So he went from, Joe Biden might have had these documents because maybe he was doing influence peddling or whatever, and then the next sentence he's talking about, we're talking about presidents that are using, using money, using the networking that they have to influence peddle and everything. It's like, you spun that as a narrative. You were speculating that might be the case. That was a conspiracy that you have, but you never actually established that to be the case. And now you're operating as if, you're using it now as a premise to build, more arguments off of, but you never actually established that. That was just kind of something that you made up, that you said might have happened.
But that's not the same as Hunter Biden. You jumped from Hunter Biden to that. Hunter Biden was basically cashing in big time from a foreign government
This is also not true. He wasn't cashing in from a foreign government. He was cashing in from a foreign company. You're allowed to work for companies in other, in other countries. You're allowed to do that. But like, if you want to make that case about him, then make that case. But notice like the dishonesty here to frame it as, oh, Hunter Biden was cashing in from a foreign government, which by the way, I don't even think that's illegal necessarily. I don't even think that's illegal, but he wasn't doing that. There's no evidence of that. He's just kind of making that up.
Purporting to supply them with insider information.
And again, no, like where are you getting that? He's just making that up. He never established that to be the case. This is his whole thing, is that he makes up stories. He makes up conspiracies. He makes up like, well, it's possible. This could have happened. A lot of people do. Some people do it, And then he goes from that. He goes from it's possible. He goes from some people do it to basically, I know for sure that this person did that. No, you don't. You're just making shit up.
Which is what
It's, some guys at night go home and they beat their wives and they molest their children. So I guess by Dinesh's logic, since some guys do it and it happens, then, Dinesh is guilty of that, right? That's stupid. Of course not. Just because some people do it, just because it might happen, just because it's possible to happen, doesn't mean that Dinesh is guilty of that at all. Doesn't mean I have any evidence that he's guilty of it at all.
What they were paying for, and we know from his own business partner that money was ending up in the pocket of Joe Biden.
The business partner that he's referring to, a lot of people don't know this because right-wing media doesn't talk about it. The business partner that he's referring to pled guilty to lying about that. He lied about that. And people like Dinesh, a lot of people on the right, they know this. They know this happened. They've kept up with the news and everything. They choose not to tell their audience that was the case. His business partner lied about that connection. And it seems like the reason that he did lie was because he was trying to spin a narrative for the Republican Party. The Republican Party, members of the Republican Party were really trying to push this narrative. And he was happy to oblige them with this narrative. I'm not saying there's money involved. I'm not saying there's influence peddling that they were involved in, but who the fuck knows? Why did he do it in the first place, right? But he did lie about it. He pled guilty to lying about it.
What insider information?
What?
What insider information does the United
Yes,
States have
good.
for the?
All you have to do is read the Hunter Biden reports in which he claims.
And then see, like this vague gesturing. I mean, maybe right now he's going to actually specify, but like they'll do this sometimes. Like, oh, you're saying that this never happens, or all you have to do is read, or if you do your own research, or the information is out there, or you don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, if the evidence is there, if you're saying that it's there for you to read, then you should be able to point to it and easily just point it out. Just easy, simple.
Claims I'm giving you all this information.
Information on how to run a business, because that's what his past was.
He's giving you information about the U.S. policy and posture vis-a-vis energy, and
Okay, so he's doing something sneaky here. Hunter Biden was a lawyer. He worked in energy policy prior to working at Burisma. He very, very may well have worked for Burisma in order to consult them on U.S. energy policy, right? But that doesn't mean that he had access to U.S. energy policy that, your average lawyer out in the field doesn't have, right? Dinesh is, again, just making up a story and positing it as like an affirmative claim that he knows that Hunter Biden had access to this information on U.S. energy policy that he wasn't supposed to have access to. And he does the sneaky thing of lying by being crafty with his words, by playing word games. He's saying Hunter Biden was selling to Burisma as a service, consulting them on energy policy. Consulting them on energy policy does not mean that Hunter Biden was selling them energy policy information that was secret. A lot of energy policy information is public information. And if there's a lawyer that works in that field that consults on energy policy for the US, yes, of course they're going to know different things about U.S. energy policy. That's their fucking job. And there's plenty of public information that they're able to peruse to look for that. If there's laws and regulations about energy policy in the United States, that's not secret necessarily. Most of it's not. You can literally just go online and you can find that information. His job would have been to be up to date, informed, to do the research on that policy, and then consult Burisma on it. And that's what he did, right? It's kind of crazy because the reality is a lot of Americans don't know this. That's literally what he did with Burisma. If you want to say that there was more to it than that, then you're welcome to make up that conspiracy, but there's no evidence of that. All we know was that he consulted them on energy policy, which was his area of expertise. That's it. That's not a crime. That's not even unethical. That's just regular fucking business. It's if you are a lawyer who works in energy policy, no fucking shit that's what you're gonna do, right? Why is that a bad thing?
He's
Yes.
giving you information about various people in the administration.
Nothing insider.
Yes.
How do you know that?
How
Because
do
it was
you
never
know
a-
that? Right? You don't get to just make shit up and then, the other person has to prove you wrong. No, you're the one making the claim. You're the one, making up shit. Why don't you actually provide some evidence that actually happened? Again, I mean, this is the entire pattern of this entire debate in Dinesh's story, or his tactic here is he just spins a story, he spins a narrative, he claims that something could have happened, he claims that something is possible to happen, he claims that other people have done this thing before, and then off of that, he makes the logical leap to, therefore, this person is guilty of that thing. Well, you didn't actually prove it. You're just saying that it's technically fucking possible that it could have possibly happened. It's possible that Dinesh beats his wife at night. We don't fucking know, right? But I don't get to just make shit up and say that he did. That's not how that works.
I don't even know
He
if Palmer or
purports-
Jordan alleged this. It doesn't show up in any reports ever. It was just always these vague stories of insider.
They're not
information.
vague stories.
What
You-
insi-
all
why
you
wasn't
have
he
to
charged
do-
with any crimes at all? Why didn't the House didn't even recommend charges, despite the 50 million different subcommittees, special investigations, or whatever they tried to do on him? The facts are frustrating here. I know. I understand. It's a difficult position to be in. There's
The
just,
House-
but the difference is like, so if I look at the
No.
Trump crypto stuff, there's nothing even remotely comparable in all of U.S. history to a president being able to solicit anonymous donations from anybody on the planet,
The
right?
House recognized that to propose criminal prosecution to Joe Biden's own DOJ was a fool's errand.
You have to, when you're listening to Dinesh here, you have to realize every single thing that he says is probably made up or a lie or like a story or a conspiracy. He frames it as if these are just like facts, right? When he says the U.S. House, decided not to file charges or whatever because he's Joe Biden's son or whatever he's saying here. I don't think there's any evidence of that whatsoever. I think he's just making that up. He's just making it up and he's saying it confidently as if it's like a fact.
That's why they didn't do it.
But they
And-
did.
and
Wait,
hold
but
on,
they
hold
did.
on.
They literally had him plead guilty to convictions. That has to go through the.
And also kind of the point, that wasn't really the Congress that did that. That was DOJ that did that. But yeah, I mean, it's a good point to bring up that, if there's this whole thing where the government was just protecting Joe Biden, well, they prosecuted him. They investigated his son. So what are you talking about? And by the way, just to clarify for people who aren't aware, his son did not plead guilty. He was not found guilty of, engaging in some kind of nefarious business activity with Burisma. Just so we're all clear here, okay? Just so we're all clear, his son did not plead guilty to some kind of illegal business dealing with Burisma. They didn't find that. They didn't charge him with that. You know what he pled guilty to? Not paying his taxes for a year, which, by the way, he should, right? He should get in trouble for that, and he did. But that's not the same thing as the claim that they're making about this whole conspiracy with Burisma, and they knowingly are conflating that. They're knowingly being dishonest about that. There was never any evidence presented that there was any actual illegal wrongdoing with his business dealings with Burisma. They found that he did not file his taxes one year, and that he also lied about smoking weed when he applied for a gun permit or whatever.
Federal Department of
on.
Justice.
Why don't you let me finish?
Because what you just said isn't
If
true.
he didn't do anything wrong,
Wait, how
why
did they get?
Joe
How did they
Biden
get? How did
pardon
they
him?
convict
And
him
not
of
only
crimes?
pardon him, Joe Biden was very careful.
Yes, Joe Biden pardoned him, but not of that crime. He pardoned him of a crime of failing to pay his taxes and lying on, the form that he filled out when he applied for a gun. And the lie that he lied about was that he smoked weed, and they don't want you to smoke weed when you fill out one of those things. Technically, yeah, maybe you shouldn't do it, right? Because that is technically law, right? But like, let's be honest here. How many gun owners out there smoke fucking weed? Like, give me a fucking break, honestly. especially like there's going to be a lot of these like libertarians who are like very anti-democratic party, probably run with this whole narrative and everything. And meanwhile, we all know these motherfuckers smoke weed and shoot their guns all the fucking time. Okay, so shut the fuck up.
Careful to pardon Hunter Biden for crimes going back to 2014.
This is how I became the most productive version of myself. Before, I used to scramble through meetings, half listening while frantically typing notes, missing key points, and spending hours trying to remember what was said. But now
I don't care, bro.
has skyrocketed thanks to Otter AI. This AI system automatically joins my meetings, transcribes every word in real time, and organizes them into clear, searchable notes. It even highlights action items and creates a quick summary for me so I can stay fully present.
I don't care.
Have perfect records.
Also, why do all these like why is it like this trend where these people have that little what is it, lapel mic, and they're always holding up to their fucking head? Get a regular mic, motherfucker, if you're gonna hold it up like that. That shit's supposed to go on your fucking shirt or something. I'm in a bit of a mood today, okay?
I'm in prison. Why are you scamming me?
Oh my god, dude, shut the fuck up.
In other
I don't
words,
care.
he gave him a retroactive pardon, not just for things to do with Burisma, but for any other crimes this guy did.
And by the way, I mean, I don't really think you should have pardoned him. I do think that the Republicans were like kind of going after Hunter Biden for anything that they could possibly go after, which is not really a fair carriage of justice. The crime that he pled guilty to, which, by the way, so the tax fraud one or whatever it was where he didn't pay his taxes, he had already, this is an important point to point out, he had already made amends with the IRS. Like he back paid those taxes. He made good on, you know, the taxes that he didn't pay. That was already resolved. They brought it up again just so they could charge him with something. And then the, you know, lying about smoking weed when you applied for a gun, like, so many people do this. It's not really a crime that people charge. They only charged Hunter Biden because they were looking for anything to fucking charge him over. They didn't get him on the Burisma thing. That whole thing fell fucking apart. They needed something to give to their base so their base could say, "Oh, look, he's a criminal," because they whipped everybody up into a fucking fever pitch over it. So they needed to have something to show for it.
Going back to when Joe Biden himself was the vice president.
Why were they able to convict him of some things if they weren't able to recommend any charges? Wasn't Hunter Biden convicted of the gun charge and the IRS charge?
Yes, he was convicted of those things, and
so
I
it seems like they could recommend charges.
I think I've just given you what I think would be a good case to make. Now, why the powers that be decided let's not charge Hunter Biden?
Can we, just so we can agree?
The powers that be decided not to charge him with anything else because they didn't have any evidence of anything else. Okay, in Dinesh, what he's gonna say is his typical narrative is gonna be some along the bullshit lines of like, it's just gonna be the typical thing. He's just gonna make up like, oh, he did this and he did that. I don't have any evidence of it, but I'm just gonna say that, you know, it's possible that he could have done these things. People have done these things in the past, therefore Hunter Biden's guilty of it. But the reality is that the Republicans looked for these crimes. They looked for anything they can get him on, and they couldn't get him on any serious crimes. They didn't have it. The Burisma shit fell apart. There was nothing there. And the dude that said that he paid the big guy or whatever admitted that he fucking lied about it. So, you know, what do you want me to fucking do about it?
What you just said had no basis in reality. They could recommend charges. They did. He pled guilty to those two things. So they always had the ability to recommend charges. Isn't it more likely that they, especially considering the origination of the investigation was a confidential informant who admitted about lying about everything, right? And that 10% from the big guy, interestingly enough, we're just citing the Russian leaks from the DCCC.
Absolutely not.
Hillary,
we're citing Hunter Biden's own business partner.
No.
Yes.
No.
It was Tony Bobulinski who revealed the 10% for the big guy.
No, there is no connection to Joe Biden there ever.
That's another thing that's worth pointing out is like the 10% for the big guy thing. They frame that as if that's been established to be Joe Biden. They never actually established that. They're just assuming that's the case. It's also possible, right, that Hunter Biden might have like been dangling his connection to his dad, to his business partners, but in reality he never made good on it. Which, for all we know, he didn't because we don't have any evidence that he ever did. So, did he ever, you know, transfer money from Burisma to give to Joe Biden for some kind of pay-to-play scheme? It doesn't seem like we have any evidence of that. Is it possible that he could have kind of teased the company that he worked for, like, oh, you know, I'm Joe Biden's son, you know, I could totally talk to him and everything, and he made it seem like he had those kind of connections. And meanwhile, his dad never really took him up on that offer because his dad isn't, guilty of anything. Much in the same way that I might say, oh, I have my friend works for the fire department. If you let me, um, if you give me a deal on this, paint job for my car, then, I could, I don't even know what you would get out of the fire department, but you get the point, right? I have a connection to somebody. I know somebody somewhere, and so I tell this other person, I'm like, oh, hey, I know this guy. If you give me a sweet deal, I'll put in a good word for you, right? But I don't actually have to make good on that promise. I just have to try to convince you that I'm going to in order to get something out of you, which probably a high probability that Hunter Biden did that because he was kind of sleazy at that time period. But we don't have any evidence that anything illegal actually even happened. We don't have any evidence of it.
Never been made. It's
Well,
never been made. They had the ability to investigate for years. They found
nothing. The 10%
nothing.
for the big guy, it comes from Hunter Biden. There was a meeting with Joe Biden, Bob Ulinsky, Hunter Biden at the Milano restaurant in Washington.
When they say meeting, they had breakfast, right? This is like, here's my dad. Let's have breakfast with my dad because my dad happens to be here at the same time that we're here. Is it possible that they discussed business, that they did some kind of business? It's possible, right? But it's also just possible that his dad was in town and he was like, hey, Dad, let me introduce you to my coworkers. It's totally fucking normal shit.
D.C., not very far from here, in Georgetown, in which Joe Biden, who was very careful himself not to get into the business dealings, but he would always show up as if to say, listen, this is on the I'm involved. I'm supporting my son here. You make the deal with him. The money will then, part of it, come to me. All of this is laid out. Now, I agree.
Or it's possible that he's just like, I'm involved with my son. I care about my son. I'm involved in my son's life. I pay attention to what my son's doing. I support my son. I meet my son's friends. And my son invited me to meet his coworkers, and I met with his fucking coworkers because that's what a normal fucking parent does with their fucking children, right? Again, it's like he takes something and then he just makes a whole entire fucking story out of it, and then from that story he pretends like something's been proven because he made up a story. He made up an excuse, an alibi, a conspiracy, or whatever.
Merrick Garland.
Well, here, I'm curious. If we think that's what happened, what did Joe Biden do for his son?
Yes, good.
What was the quid pro quo here if we're alleging that? What even happened?
This is the style of the Corleone family. What does Joe Biden do for his son? Joe Biden's son is Michael Corleone. He's part of a corrupt family operation. The other brothers are involved.
What is the operation?
The operation is to shake down foreign entities.
Shake down how?
Shake him down. Say everything is just a story. Shake him down. What do you need to shake him down for? He's working for this company. He was doing legal consulting for this company. There's no even need to have like a shakedown. Shakedown for fucking what? Just making shit up, dude.
Like when Witkoff goes to other countries and signs deals with leaders in Indonesia and Qatar and Ukraine and Russia for mineral deals. What about the $700 million in DoD contracts that Trump's own children have gotten for extraction deals in Ukraine that the president himself is negotiating? Okay. Well, supposedly him, but it's actually Witkoff getting plans passed off from Russians, right? I can show you.
Your only mode of defense is the what about, and then you jump to something else.
Well, no, my mode of defense is the reason.
Why don't we stay with this?
Okay, wait. If we want to stay with the topic, let's do it. Give me one concrete example of Biden corruption. What was one concrete example? Not like I think this happened and there was a story of this. What's one concrete example? Okay. I just gave you like 5 for Trump.
All right. One concrete example is that Biden is vice president.
David, the movie.
I will not be afraid.
Dude.
And right about the time that Biden is designated as the U.S. man for Ukraine, a river of money now begins to flow from Burisma to Hunter Biden and his business partners, and all of this.
Okay, it's just so fucking annoying. Hunter Biden worked for this company. Money flowed. Yeah, money flows when you work for a company and they pay you. Yeah. But notice, like, the language that he uses is supposed to carry this, like, nefarious, suspicious connotation, when reality is just, like, money flowed from this person to this person. Yeah, because a business will pay you if you fucking work from them. Yeah, money flows. And then he adds on top of that, to Hunter Biden and his friends. He just made that up. Where are you getting that from? That Hunter Biden was, extorting money or whatever for his friends? He's just making that up. It's just a story, right? It's just story after story after story, just making shit up, making shit up.
This at a time when Burisma itself is under investigation for all kinds of fraud, and Joe Biden goes on camera before an international council.
This is so annoying because we've known about this for such a long time. We know what the context is. Joe Biden went in front of the world and said, Ukraine, fire this prosecutor. You got to fire this prosecutor because he's not investigating corruption in the country. We don't have to guess about this. We don't have to be like, oh, well, number one, if this is supposed to be nefarious and everything, why the fuck would he do it out in the open? It doesn't make any sense. Number two, we know why that prosecutor was told to be, Joe Biden told him to fire him. It's because they all of our European allies were looking at this prosecutor and saying he is covering for corruption. He's not doing investigations. So all the European allies that we had, right? The reason for him asking for that guy to be fired, it's not because, he was trying to do a favor for his son. It's because everybody in the world who was involved, in politics at the time, was looking at this prosecutor and saying he isn't, he's not prosecuting corruption. So we know that. And then on top of this, the Congress at the time supported Joe Biden doing this. Republican members of Congress at the time were on the record. I think they voted on this actually. And so they all pretend now like they don't know why this happened, that, oh, the only explanation is that, Joe Biden was trying to, do this for his son and everything. Why would he do it out in the open, number one? Number two, if it was all about that, then why did all the Republicans also support this at the time? And keep in mind, because they supported it at the time, because they were involved, that means that the Republicans who talk about this, they're knowingly lying about it. They know what the actual context is. They know the actual reason for it, but they're just lying for politics.
And tells you that he demanded that the prosecutor of Burisma be fired. And not only that, he got him fired. And he not only that, he went on to say,
By the way, that prosecutor who was fired was not investigating Burisma, specifically not investigating. There was an open investigation in Burisma at the time, and that investigation was paused while that prosecutor was in office. When a new prosecutor was put in place, that investigation was, it was moved along. So him having that prosecutor fired actually made Burisma under more scrutiny, not less.
told Ukraine that you're not getting $1 billion if you don't fire this guy.
Why did he say that?
There is nothing that Trump has done that comes even close to this.
Oh, sure. Then why did he say that?
He said that because it's true and he got away with it.
No. Why did Biden tell that to Ukraine?
Because Biden told that to Ukraine because he was essentially making a deal with Burisma in which Burisma
You don't even know
said,
the official
cover
story?
Burisma said, you sort out this corruption deal for us right here and we will start paying your son and money will flow right back to you. Nothing good.
Again,
timing is
it's just a story, right? They said this. No, they fucking didn't. No one said that. You just made that up.
perfect. The amount of money is huge. And
The
all
timing is perfect. What else was going on in 2014 in Ukraine? Don't you think there might have been maybe the whole, I know this is, I'm a sucker for buying the official story that the entire European Union and the United States and the whole U.S. official administration, everything agreed with.
And Republicans in Congress.
That money was going to be made available to loan to Ukraine if they would clean up the rampant corruption in that country, of which there was a plethora of. We know this because one of the main benefactors of that corruption was Manafort, when he was working with Putin to help his candidate in Ukraine that he was lying about reporting his income to. It was one of the big indictments that came out, one of the big convictions, and one of the big pardons that Trump made later. But you said that's unrelated to this, right?
It's
in 2014,
not related,
I know, of course it's not. Nothing is. In 2014, when Biden was making these statements publicly, No, I'm just saying what the policy was in the United States. Biden was operating. This was the deal that Ukraine had already made with the U.S. You have to clean up. Shokin was known as a bad prosecutor. That investigation you were talking about into Burisma, that was dead for over a year. There was nothing even happening on that front. Ukraine was known to be a country with a lot of corruption and a lot of corruption-related issues, and part of them having access to low interest rate loans from the West, from the United States, was that they would clean up their corrupt businesses or their corrupt lack of ability to conduct themselves as a country. That was the story given. The whole rest of the world agrees, the European Union, the United States, everybody else. Nobody's brought this up until Trump was caught trying to do a quid pro quo later with his own personal attorney, Giuliani, making phone calls, and then him making phone calls unilaterally on his own.
So let's repeat your dewy-eyed account of what is actually happening in Ukraine. According to you, there's a lot of corruption in Ukraine. True. Okay. Not surprisingly, very involved in the corruption, Burisma. Would you think that a giant energy company in Ukraine is somehow immune from the corruption? They're part of it. Okay, a prosecutor is looking into it. According to you...
You don't know that, though, right? It's possible that they're one of the companies that were not corrupt, or that they were moving, or that they were one of the companies that were, reforming themselves. You just, again, just a story. You're just making shit up.
Joe Biden, having no personal interest in the matter whatsoever, motivated purely by the most sublime ethics, tells Ukraine, you have to fire, there's a corruption all over the country, but I'm only demanding one thing of you. You need to fire this one guy.
Their chief prosecutor.
Who is looking into, the chief prosecutor who is looking into corruption from the company that my son is about to make an extremely lucrative financial deal with for 83 grand
what
per
financial
month to go on.
What financial deal? Wasn't he already working for the company? He makes it sound like Hunter Biden had this deal that was just ready to go, but all he needed is get that prosecutor out of the way. What deal? He was already on the fucking board. He was already getting paid. What are you talking about? It wasn't contingent upon anything. It just I don't know. This shit's so fucking annoying.
On indefinitely. And according to you, it's all on the up and up. No investigations required here, guys.
You know why I know this?
We're all good Democrats here, and when our guys do it, it's all A-okay.
This is the easy killer question that, again, you won't have an answer for. If this was such a horrible, corrupt thing, why is it that Republicans only seem to recall the quote that Joe Biden made on stage in front of the whole world in 2014, years later, when it came up with Donald Trump in Ukraine? Why would Joe Biden go out on stage and admit to the corruption, saying, I told them that if you don't fire Shogun, you're not getting anything from us, ha ha ha. Why did nobody say, oh my God, we need to investigate him for corruption? Maybe it's because the whole world understood how corrupt the Ukrainian system was at that point in time.
The reason people went back to the video is for the simple reason that they, at that point of the video, didn't know about the money flow. So the point is, Joe Biden makes an action which seems on the up and up. It's just that it's part of my job.
What money flow? Everything that he says, he's just making stuff up. What money flow are you talking about? Again, if he's talking about, Hunter Biden was paid, yeah, he was paid because he was an employee. What do you mean? It's not a money flow like there's like this nefarious deal going on. He was already on their fucking payroll, working for them for a while at that point.
Making sure
it's part of the VP's job to fire prosecutors in other countries? No, it's not.
It is, first of all, it's a little unusual for the Vice President of the United States to name the chief prosecutor in this country and say...
Very unusual, I agree.
It's unusual in the sense that it's very specific, yes, but it's not unusual for the Vice President to conduct, to do foreign policy on behalf of the United States. Why would it be unusual? The President gives the Vice President duties to do, when he's tied up with other things that he's working on at the time period. There's nothing unusual about it. It's just a story to make it sound like there's something weird and nefarious about it. But that's it. It's just a story to make it sound that way.
So why didn't anybody think anything weird of it? Because this was the policy that the European Union and the West had in guaranteeing loans to help Ukraine. That's why nobody looked into it.
You can think that something is weird without thinking that there's money changing hands. You can
think, you keep saying that there's money changing hands.
That's really strange. And then a little bit later it comes out, hold on, you actually have checks made out to Hunter Biden's LLCs You have contracts from Burisma. Now you know, oh my gosh, it all makes sense. This guy was doing it so to open up a spigot of money. Obviously, it's in Burisma's interest to shut down the investigation. What's that worth? $83,000 a month? Yeah. Is our Hunter Biden's expertise worth 83? Hunter Biden wasn't just getting 83. So was Devin Archer. So it's 83 per partner, not 83 total, per month. People don't give that kind of money, especially foreigners don't give that kind of
I mean, they do. You can argue that these people are overpaid. I might agree with you there, but people that are on the boards of large companies, especially energy companies, yeah, of course they're 80. What do you say? 83 was it 83,000 or is it 83 million? Whatever the number is, like yeah, they get paid a lot.
Kind of money per month. So it's 83 per part. 83. Biden's $83,000 a month. Yeah.
Okay. So let's just let me run the numbers on this real fast. 83K per month times 12. I don't even know why I'm considering that this is even a real number. So he's getting paid close to $1 million a year. It's a lot of money, but it doesn't mean that there's any kind of corruption involved. People on boards of large multinational companies get paid a lot of fucking money. Doesn't mean that there's anything illegal going on.
Are Hunter Biden's expertise worth 83? Hunter Biden wasn't just getting 83. So was Devin Archer. So it's 83 per partner, not 83 total, per month. People don't give that kind of money, especially foreigners don't give that kind of money without having some interest in the matter. They're not.
Yeah, without some interest in the matter. Yeah, because he's an energy consultant, energy policy consultant, and he had been prior to working there. He acts like I don't even know. I don't even know. I'm getting worked up. Like this shit's stupid. It's obviously stupid.
What would you say about the $2 billion that Kushner's firm got from the MBS when Donald Trump was crafting the Abraham Accords? Are you saying there must have been a quid pro quo there as well? Or what about the massive Qatari deal with the $500 million jet? Or what about the minerals deal in Ukraine with Russia?
I think we should look at these. So I think with Trump, let me tell you what.
Well, here, but as we move on to this, can we admit for everything else, there's no solid proof of any of the stuff related to Hunter Biden. It's just, the big guy or whatever. There was no solid proof of anything related to Joe Biden or Pence with regards to improper handling of their documents.
Well, all I'm saying is when you say there's no solid proof, all evening you have been reciting these rhetorical, why do you think Trump took a plane from Qatar? There's no solid proof, but you've been saying it. Why did Jared Kushner make this deal?
Just doing the opposite of what you're doing.
You constantly invoke these rhetorical whys.
So to be clear, I'm not invoking rhetorical whys. I'm not going to hold on your line. The issue is that Kushner was the guy who was the chief architect of the Abraham Accords, and Kushner's firm got $2 billion from MBS from Saudi Arabia. Or Donald Trump allowed Qatar to have a security agreement with the U.S. We don't even have with Israel. And in exchange, there was a $400 million jet that was authorized for Donald Trump's, I guess, Secret Service and his presidency to have. This is an exact thing. Hunter Biden was never a public office official holder. So there is no, I can't draw the comparison. Now, if Hunter Biden worked in the White House, or if Hunter Biden had the same role that Witkoff had, that Elon Musk has, that any of Trump's children has, then I could say, oh yeah, that is kind of weird and bad. But you guys seem very focused on the hypothetical crimes of Hunter Biden, none of which the House is able to actually indict him on, but you have no concern about the open, rampant corruption that Donald Trump is engaged in, where right now, with a crypto coin, he could take donations from anybody around the world and nobody would know about it.
Let's look at the jet from Qatar, because I think if we're looking at corruption, let's look and see what's going on here. So Trump, and this is one of the unique aspects of Trump, I guess, is
being a criminal. Yeah, president. Yeah.
This is not a criminal act.
I agree. The Supreme Court
Trump
said
operates.
Okay.
Trump is ultimately a transactional guy who acts as if
this defense here, this hypocrisy here. Oh, he's transactional. Yeah, what do you call corruption? Corruption is a transaction. No shit. But that's not defense. That's just you trying to make it sound like it's okay, I guess, for reasons. There's not even a good reason. You're just saying, well, Trump is a corrupt guy. Yeah, no shit. That's the point, you fucking idiot.
The United States is his corporation, and he's the CEO. So Trump thinks, the way Trump mind works, if I can get a foreign business to put $500 million into the United States, I'm scoring a big one for my company called the USA. Trump thinks
That's corruption, bro. The government is not your company for you to make deals for you, right? It doesn't belong to you. It's not yours, not your company. It's not your thing to make, sweet deals for yourself. That's not the point.
that if I'm making a deal with Qatar, and the Qataris, as tribute, want to give the United States of America, not Trump, a plane, we'll take your plane. It actually establishes who is paying tribute to whom. And Trump's point is, I can do these deals. Frankly, if it were the Biden administration, they would have given Qatar $400 million and got nothing out of it.
So if the CEO of your company cut you a deal, your company a deal where your company now has to do work for Qatar, but the CEO gets to fly around in a $500 million private jet, you feel like the CEO was working for you?
You're saying, yeah, I do.
How does the $400 million jet help Americans?
The $400 million jet is $400 million less that the United States would have to pay. Air Force One is being.
That's fucking stupid. They're not using that jet. They can't even use it for like Air Force One or anything because it's not equipped for that. When we use jets for Air Force One, they're like custom built. They have all kinds of like communications platforms in them. There's a lot of like top secret shit that we didn't even know are going into those planes to make them secure. We not only do we not do this, we're not doing it with the Qatari plane for this exact same reason. We're not using that plane for official business for Air Force One because we can't simply just trust another government to give us a fucking plane and then we use that for top secret or for high level operations because it's potentially bugged or it's unsecure or it's not upgraded in the way that we upgrade our Air Force One. It's right now it's just sitting around. We're not using it for anything.
Refurbished or displaced.
So instead of paying American workers in an American company to make a plane, we got one for free from Qatar, a country that you said is influencing our country via foreign affairs more than almost any other country on the planet.
I think you think you're making gotchas on me, but you're not. Qatar.
I'm just pointing out what you're saying. The gotchas are coming from your side.
Let me spell it out.
Go ahead.
The nation of Qatar is extremely cunning. They understand that you've got the radical jihadis over here, and you've got Israel over here.
Another story.
And the Qataris realize that there is a very important middleman role to be played by a broker who has access to the terrorists, but at the same time is willing to make deals with America. And so, for example, if you want to get the hostages out, it's not easy to deal with Hamas. And so Qatar goes, listen, the guys in Hamas, they live in Qatar. We'll talk to them. We'll get some sense out of it.
Do you understand that he's just making it up as he goes along? Like he just made up the story.
This is the reality of the dirty world we live in. You have to work with these kinds of people. Are they duplicitous? Yes. Do they make promises? Yes. They go, listen, we want to run some joint air exercises with you at one of your military bases. But we are the good Muslims. We preach the Quran, but we don't want to bomb your buildings. And so you need to encourage the good Muslims to undermine the power of the bad Muslims. And so this is Qatar's sales pitch. Why do you think Georgetown took their money? Why do you think they own political science departments around the United States? They are.
Think about that for a minute. Think about the hypocrisy of a statement like that. These people freak out over George Soros, who I think he's a U.S. citizen, right? And they're always freaking out about, there's foreign influence from China and these other countries and globalism and everything. But then it's their own administration, and they have like a corrupt country that's engaging in like influence peddling schemes, and they're like, oh, that's actually a good thing because it's for the Republicans, I guess.
They have a pitch. Now, what I'm saying with Trump understands what their pitch is. But Trump is operating, I think, as no president.
Trump understands what their pitch is. Where's he getting this from? Again, it's just a story. He's just making shit up as he goes along. Trump understands their pitch. When did he say that? When did Trump say any of this shit? He didn't say any of this. You're just making it up.
That I've seen before him in the transactional world is something he is better at than almost anybody else I've seen in 40 years of American politics. The Biden
He's better
people
at corruption
were
than
so
other
bad
people.
at this that they were giving away everything and getting nothing in return.
Why is it
Giving
that
away
Donald
what
Trump
and
is
getting
able
what?
to create all these
talking about?
crafty deals with people like Qatar? And when you talk about the terrorists and everything else that they were concerned with, they were probably concerned with the fact that Israel had just bombed them. I think that was a major impetus for them securing a peace agreement or a security agreement with the United States, is because they don't want Israel bombing them anymore, number one. Number two, he has all this ability to negotiate so cleverly and craftily with all of his enemies. Why can't he make the same negotiations with, I don't know, Canada and Mexico?
Well,
he's turned
here's
ally
why.
to enemy of almost every country on the planet of the United
I'll tell
States.
you why. I'll tell you why. Because what Trump is dealing with is basically
Again, it's just making
75
another
years
story up.
of European freeloading off of America. The
What are you
Europeans after
talking
World
about?
War
What
II got an
freeloading?
amazing deal, which is basically we, America, will locate hundreds of thousands.
That wasn't a deal for them. That was a deal for us. It allowed us to have geopolitical dominance and force projection all over the fucking globe. By the way, they pay rent to have those bases there for us to fucking be there so that we could take advantage of that relationship. And the arms sales that we did during World War II, they had to pay that back with interest. He's just saying stuff. He's just making shit up.
Thousands of troops in Europe to protect against a Soviet invasion. We will guarantee the protection of Europe, and we, the American taxpayer, will pay for it. Meanwhile, you can take all the money that you are spending on defense and use it on your welfare state. This deal has been in place, untouched by Republican or Democratic presidents for 75 years. And every time anybody has questioned it, the president or the president's team has basically said, we have to live with it. We realize we're being ripped off. And by the way, the same is true across the board. It recently came out.
Again, it's another story. People are not saying, oh, we have to live with it, we're getting ripped off. People are saying there's a reason why we engage in this relationship. It's a relationship that we wanted, that we proposed, because it allows us to have influence over that region, have geopolitical dominance over that region, have force projection power over that region. And I don't think we pay for it. They pay for it. I'm pretty sure they pay us to stay over there.
Just focusing on Europe, just focusing on Europe.
You'll have your turn.
Build a website you love with Wix, where your words create your brand, your opportunity, your breakthrough. Wix.
Oh my god, shut the fuck up. Get out of here.
It recently came out that, by and large, pharmaceutical drugs all over the world are dramatically cheaper than in the United States.
Yeah, they have universal
Why?
health care and we
Because
don't.
all the
Why? Because something called monopsony. Because those countries, what they do is, because they have universal health care, they have a single payer. That single payer has a disproportionate, it's the opposite of monopoly. They have a disproportionate buying power, and so they're able to negotiate drug prices. Republicans, by the way, they made it illegal for our publicly funded healthcare systems to negotiate drug prices. So this whole line of argument, right, that, oh, the Europeans are taking advantage of us because they get drug prices, we don't, we pay for the research, we could if we wanted to, but the party that you support decided that they don't want to do that.
R&D cost is borne by us, and the companies then sell the product for the actual cost plus a markup. So you might get the same drug for $7 in Canada, and
what are you doing about it? What is your
$50 in the
party
United
doing about it
States,
right now?
because our
Nothing.
citizens are stuck with all the R&D costs. We didn't even hear about this for decades until
Wasn't there a
recently.
No, we did
president
hear
who was
about it, but your
actively
party
trying
just didn't
to
want to talk
do,
about
like
it.
a public
Both of you.
option, or
And
wasn't
so
Biden trying
you
to
need to jump in
negotiate
with
like
some
actual cost?
irrelevant.
It's a lie.
Hold on, is it a lie?
Yes, it's a lie. We
It-
always have known that drugs cost more in the United States. Why do you
Yes.
think Obama was even trying to pass the Affordable Care Act? We've always known that these things are expensive. Why do you think
Hold
Biden was
on,
trying
wait
to
a
make
minute.
it so that Medicare could actually negotiate with drug providers in order to have actual ceilings on prices? We've always known this, but for some reason conservatives are just now catching up to 20 years of like,
Yes.
wow, isn't this kind of a bad thing?
Hold on. You know, and this is really the story of this debate. Customarily, you shift the ground to you're taking it for granted that the drug should cost $50, and you're saying now, having ripped off the American citizen by making him pay the full R&D freight, let's now give democratically handouts to people so that they can now afford the $50, even though the price shouldn't be $50 in the first place. See, so with Trump, you go to the root of the problem.
But you
which
didn't
is
go to the
let's
real
sit down
farm.
these pharmaceutical guys from abroad. Let's kick their ass a little. Let's tell them, listen, guys, you can't pull the scam on me anymore. I know
Again,
exactly.
it's another story. It's just another story. Where do we see this? Do we actually see that drug prices were reduced because of Donald Trump negotiating? No, that didn't happen. And the Republican Party that he supports voted down and blocked the Biden administration and Obama from being able to negotiate these drug prices. It's just a story. It's bullshit.
What you're doing. If you want this drug, you don't have to take it. You can let your people die of diabetes or whatever. But if you want this drug, the company will amortize the R&D cost over the price of the drug worldwide. Americans are not going to pay higher prices. Whether we do Obamacare or not is a completely separate issue. But in your usual gymnastic way, you can't answer what I said, so you pretend everybody.
Wait, what do you think I
knows.
can't answer? What is a question you've asked that you don't think I can answer?
The question I'm raising is this. You started out by asking me, why is Trump so combative and
With
he
our
can't
allies.
make a deal with Canada? And I'm giving you the answer because those people have been enjoying a rip-off scheme for 75 years.
If all of
across
these other
the
countries have
board.
been enjoying a rip-off scheme of the United States, why
The
are we
European-
outperforming all of them?
He's not fighting with all of them. He's made some
No,
deals.
why are we outperforming all of them? Which European countries benefited so much from their one-sided, lopsided deal with the United States that they're doing so much better than us? Who's outperforming the U.S. right now worldwide? 75 years of extraction.
That is what is known as a non sequitur.
I'm sorry, what is the damage? You said that they were all leeching off of us, taking advantage of a state of affairs. How?
They're taking advantage of the state of affairs. Let's just start with Europe, okay? The truth of it is not only does America pay a large portion of European defense costs, but they don't even pay their freight in NATO. They were getting away, by and large, with paying about 1% of their GDP to NATO. Under Trump, they've agreed to raise it to 5%. Now, I can see why they're pissed about that. Nobody wants to pay 5%. They'd rather have that money to spend on buying votes in their own country.
What are they even paying for?
No, the reason why is because they'd rather spend the money investing in their population by doing things like providing universal health care. Meanwhile, the Republican idea of how to run the economy and everything is to spend all the fucking money on defense spending and not actually spend it on things like subsidizing drug costs. And that's also why, by the way, it's not because they're ripping it off, it's because our country decides to, because of Republican policies, to prioritize defense spending over reinvestment in its own citizens. It's not because the Europeans force us to do it. It's not because they're taking advantage of us. Republicans simply decide that they don't want to prioritize that. They don't want to vote for it. And then they turn around and they blame everybody else for
2%,
it.
5% to NATO.
That we're talking, NATO is supposed to be funded by a collaborative. It's a collaboration of the United States and the major countries of Europe, and all of them are supposed to pay into the pot that bankrolls NATO. When we're fighting this war in Ukraine, who do you think's paying for all of it?
So
For
it's
the most
investment.
part,
Well,
we
the
are.
United States is.
So, number one, that's not NATO fighting the war in Ukraine. So that doesn't even make sense. Number two, Europe actually did step in to fund Ukraine. I think right now, I could be wrong about this. I think the European Union right now is spending more on Ukraine than the United States is.
Been reticent to under the Republican leadership, but this is a percentage agreement that they agreed to put into their own military forces. It's not like we get that. It's not like NATO even directly gets that. And Trump is trying to separate himself from the security provider from Europe for the entirety of his presidency. But you keep saying these other countries are taking advantage of us. Has America not gotten in exchange for the security agreement with Europe the strongest military on the planet? The ability to have so much precision that we can murder random Venezuelans in the ocean and get camera footage of it for Donald Trump and Kristi Noem to show off to the American public? Like, we have like the strongest military on the planet. We've had the strongest military on the planet. Everybody's trying to steal military secrets and everything from us, the United States. You're acting like this has been a one-sided deal.
I'm making the point that this is like pure sophistry here.
What did I just say? That was not true. Does America have the strongest military on the planet?
Let me zoom into what we're actually talking about, okay? You have Europe. You have these countries that face mutual threats from each other. For a long time, they faced a Soviet threat. They face other threats. The United States comes in and basically goes, we will pay the lion's share of your protection. Okay? Now you're asking, don't we get something out of it?
Their protection from what? What are you talking about? They're not under attack, right? Republicans get away with this bullshit. They're protection from what? They're not under attack. We're not paying for their defense. It just doesn't even make sense.
course we do. But any common sense transactor would know that while we get something out of it, they get a lot out of it. They can afford to pay. They might not have been able to afford to pay in 1946, but they can afford to pay a lot more to their own defense. But
Haven't
they
we gotten
refuse.
more out of it than
Don't
they've
interrupt
gotten
me.
out of us?
But they refuse to do it because they would rather freeload.
They refuse to do it because they're not insane like the Republican Party. They decided instead in peacetime to invest in their own citizens, to invest in their infrastructure, to not blow all their fucking money all the goddamn time on military spending during peacetime. That's the difference. And Europe isn't under attack. They're not under attack by Russia. Russia doesn't attack NATO directly. None of these countries are under any kind of threat from anybody at the moment. So the United States isn't really subsidizing like their security in any meaningful way. These are just like talking points that Republicans sell their voters to rip them off and to like push them towards policy that's counterproductive and stupid and then just blame other people for it.
Off the U.S. taxpayer.
You're saying freeload. The United States has gotten to coordinate security on the entire planet almost, on our entire hemisphere as a result of this arrangement. It's benefited us.
Yeah.
We have the strongest economy. We've got the best trade arrangements. We've got the best intellectual property. We've got the world culture that we export from the U.S. It's
This
just
is
so
what
strange.
I call, this is globaloney, okay? Because the issue...
Wait,
and
what
this
was
is
pure baloney?
a transactor in any deal, okay? If a transactor in any deal is always going to think about not only what do I get out of it, I obviously going to get something out of it, but if I'm protecting you and your family, let's say, okay, I'm going to get something out of it. We're
What are you
allies.
talking
You're
about?
my friend. But then I realize that you're doing pretty well. In fact, you have a more generous welfare state than I do. And you're like...
That's your fault, though. It's not because they're forcing you to not do that. It's because you, the Republican Party, decide that you guys just want to spend all your money on fucking military shit for no fucking reason, and then get into wars in Venezuela instead of having universal health care. That's a decision that you make. Europe is not forcing you to do that.
allowing me to pay your security costs and store your house alarm, put guards outside your house, and you are contributing little or nothing. And then I go, well, I got the best IP, I got the smartest people, I got the biggest... Who cares? It's not a reasonable deal.
They have
And
nothing
Trump-
to do with our welfare. I'm just curious. We redirected, what, $100 billion? Trump said $300 billion. It goes up every time because he's forgetful of the last thing he said. How much money that we didn't give to Ukraine has now gone into American welfare?
Yes.
Oh, no, wait. The one
The
big,
point-
beautiful
the
bill
point-
tried to cut Medicaid for tax cuts for wealthy people.
The
So
point-
why are we trying to pretend that the Republicans are taking away from security in Europe? You said that he got a 5% commitment from NATO guarantees, that we've done less getting extorted by other countries. Okay, great.
Well-
Where's all my welfare now?
You're as usual pivoting to an unrelated issue.
That's
The
not
unrelated
related.
issue is
It's
what
directly
do we
related.
do? So now, following our train of thought, if you are able to convince your friend, look, you install the alarm, I'll provide a security guard, you pay for your own protection, which benefits you the most. It benefits me. I don't want to see you harmed, but you don't want to see you harmed even more. So you pay. Now I have some more money. And when I say some more money, what I mean is that even after the Cold War, if the United States had said, we are in a different world, the Soviet threat is over, we're not going to have German battalions coming through the Fulda Gap and swarming across Europe, we're in a different situation. Our defense budget can now probably be cut.
Scribe is how you stop explaining the same thing over and over at work. Watch this. It'll change your life. Raise your hand if you told your boss how to do...
Shut
in
up.
half. Or in a third, to a third.
Oh, man, this entire thing is so fucking annoying. It's a broken record. He just talks incessantly, never shuts the fuck up. It's the same bullshit over and over again. Every time he puts one bullshit point out, he puts another one out the next minute. The reason that we're spending all this money on our defense all the goddamn time is not because the United States is under threat. It's not because, you know, the European Union or the NATO countries are being attacked. It's because we decided not to. The Republicans decided not to. The Republicans decided that we don't want universal health care. We don't even want Obamacare. The Republicans decided we need to go to war in Iraq and Afghanistan for no fucking reason, right? They are the ones that are choosing to spend all this, waste all this money, blow all this fucking money on defense all the goddamn time, instead of doing universal health care like the Europeans had. It's not, the Europeans did not force them to do that. The Europeans aren't, you know, keeping them from doing that. The United States, under Republican leadership, decided to do that, you know, for no fucking reason.
And if we did that, we now have a lot of opportunities, which governments are not very wise in the way they spend money, but we can deploy them any which way we want, which is a separate debate. But the country would have enormous added resources. Just look at how much we've spent on the defense of Europe since World War II. It's a giant number.
What are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about? When he says defense of Europe, none of the countries in NATO are under threat. They're not under attack. When he says defense of Europe, he's talking, I think, about like the Eastern countries, the post-Soviet countries. We didn't do that because we were helping NATO out, because we were doing it on behalf of NATO. We did that because we wanted to take control, like we wanted those countries to be under our influence rather than the Soviet Union. We did that for us, for our own strategic reasons. It had nothing to do with Europe, had nothing to do with NATO.
Now, what have we gotten for it? Have we averted any great wars?
We've gotten the world's largest economy. We extract intelligent people from them via our institutions because of how easy it is for them to come and study here. We have foreign investment from these countries. These people invest a ton in U.S. treasuries because of all of the extra trade that we do.
Oh, yeah. So the Europeans take our money and invest it in our treasuries so that they can then collect interest on that. And that's how we have a $38 trillion debt.
That's not why we have a $38 trillion debt
in
at
which
all.
we give them money to then loan to us so we can then pay them the interest on that and go into the red to $38 trillion.
I'm sorry, as opposed to, what do you call a man when somebody comes up to you and they say, oh, what's your net worth? Well, you know, I have $10 in my bank account. And then another guy, you like, oh, you know, what's your net worth? Or what do you do? It's like, oh, I've got like a $50 million loan out. Do you think the guy with the $50 million loan is the poor one in that circumstance? The reason why we have a $38 trillion debt and the reason why our interest rates are still relatively low despite having so much debt is because so many other people want to invest in the U.S. economy. Our workers get paid more across basically every single sector. Everybody wants to come to this country to live. Like South Africa isn't begging, you know, Germany or Britain to let them in. If you want like surplus export economies, you can look at places like that, like Iran, or places like North Korea, or places like the United Kingdom is an export economy right now. Like, I mean, these are not favorable places to live, comparatively speaking, to the standard of living we have in the United States.
What you say...
An issue that I'm noticing, and I notice it because Dinesh is just so fucking annoying. Like, his voice is annoying, and he just doesn't stop talking. And what Destiny's allowing him to do here, I don't think he's realizing, it's the age-old problem that liberals run into, is Dinesh is just spending the entire fucking debate, just spinning narrative after narrative after narrative, bullshit lie after bullshit lie after bullshit lie. What Destiny should be doing here is Destiny should be laying out his own arguments and forcing Dinesh to have to contend with them. Start, you know, pointing out, oh, Donald Trump is corrupt for this and this, that reason. You know, we should be doing this, we should be doing that, right? But he's instead he's responding to everything that Dinesh is saying, so it allows Dinesh to set up like this whole grand narrative that he's doing.
What you say is not untrue, but it's not the reason that our interest rates are low. Look, Europe, first of all, with regard to Europeans coming to study in America, are you saying that Europeans would not come to study in America from the 40s to now, even though the United States is leading in technology? We have very good reasons for the Europeans to come study here.
Not when the current administration is deporting them for protesting against Israel.
Now he switches to something else.
I'm not. It's what the Trump administration is doing. You talking about students coming to the United States to study, and the president is attacking all of our universities and making it harder to get student visas. I try to say, no, they wouldn't come.
You're a hit and run man, because whenever I try to stay on a point,
hit and stay man. I'm staying on the same point.
To something completely
not
different
at all. We're on the same point.
And same point. You said interest rates are low because Europeans invest a lot of money in the United States and hold a lot of our treasuries, and I think that is not even close to the seventh most important reason why interest rates are low. The real reason interest rates are low is far more insidious, and that is our government is constantly printing oceans of money. They have the ability to print money and dilute the money that is in your pocket. So you work hard to earn money. Your own government, as we speak, is printing money. When I came to the United States...
If you think about if you step back and you think about this narrative for a minute, if that was so bad, if we were getting so ripped off by that, why does our country have like the highest GDP in the world? Why do our workers make more per capita than like most other countries in the world? Why do we have the most dominant country in the world? Why do we have the most like technologically advanced country in the world?
I had $500 in my pocket, 1980. If I had saved that money, spent none of it, through great frugality, and if I had it now, the purchasing power...
Yeah, the purchasing power of that money would be more in a vacuum, but the United States, the entire economy of the United States and its global position would be lessened, in which case the environment in which you're making money isn't the same environment anymore. It's not, it's a dynamic calculation that you have to do considering all the other factors that would have, the different circumstances that would have arisen because of the opportunity cost there.
Of that same $500 today would be approximately $50. In other words, we save money and we practice deferred gratification. And the one thing we want is for our money to hold its value. We would rather it go up.
No, that's not the one thing we want. We want a lot of different things. There's a lot of different things we're balancing. And that's the problem, is that he's giving simple narratives. But the reality is that there's a lot that goes into that. We have the strongest economy in the world. And that has an effect on your ability to make money in the United States, to have jobs, to have the security and all the other things that come along with it. It's not just you want your money to hold value. You're trying to balance these different things.
Up in value because we've worked so hard to get it. But our government, our own government, screws us by diluting our money, because when they print money, they get to spend it, and the money in all of our pockets goes down.
So selling treasuries is not printing money. Quantitative easing or other things, there are different factors that you can talk about when it comes to monetary policy. But the reason why our interest rates are low is because a lot of people want to buy U.S. treasuries. So we can sell our debt at a very low interest. If not many people wanted to buy it, then we would raise the interest on our debt. Printing money and saying that that's magically making interest rates grow doesn't even make sense. It's not connected.
This is called, oh, it doesn't make any sense? Okay. The interest rate is the price of money, right? How difficult it is to get money is what sets the interest rate. Now, let's just assume as a thought experiment that I, right now, double the amount of money in circulation. Will the interest rate go up or down? Down, because the supply of money is vastly greater. Just go back to Economics 101.
Economics 101. If you were a German citizen and you wanted to buy a U.S. Treasury bond and it was paying 5%, was the coupon rate on it. If you knew that the U.S. was going to double their money supply, why would you buy that Treasury bond for a lower interest rate? You would demand a higher interest rate on it.
You would. The reason you would buy that Treasury bond is because the German Bundesbank is tripling the amount of its own money. In other words, they're printing money too. And the United States is an abuser of the money supply, but not as big an abuser as other countries.
Okay, then how are these countries that are taking advantage of us don't have to abuse? Shouldn't they be abusing their money supply less? They're taking advantage of us so much. Like the
reason that they're look. Why was there runaway inflation of 15% per month in Argentina, and why do these interest rates and inflation rates vary so much around the world? There's more than one reason, but the primary reason is money printing. And you can see why it's very attractive for governments to print money. Here's why. If they didn't print money, let's just say we outlawed it. The U.S. government, every time they spent money, would have to come to you, the taxpayer, and tell you, we're going to extract more $20 bills out of your wallet. And you would be like, no, if you try to do that, I'll vote against you.
Even if you don't print money, you can still sell
treasury bonds. The government has come up with a beautiful scheme. Let's not consult the citizens. Let's just steal from them by secretly removing $20 bills out of their pocket, and we do this by running this thing called the money printer.
If this was so bad for the economy,
pretend it's not true. But
okay, sure. Well, let's say it's so horrible. Why does every single country on the planet have central banking?
Because central governments love money cartels. What could be better for the governments of the world than to have a cartel in which they control the money supply?
These governments all over the planet are engaged in this anti-democratic behavior. No citizens actually want this, and no individual countries figured out that if we don't do this, we'll be better than every other country. Wouldn't it be a lot simpler to think maybe they engage in central banking practices because that's just a better way to run an economy?
No. This shows a colossal level of naivete. But let me put it this way: the ordinary person thinks that our whole system, including our banking system, works completely differently than it does. So I asked my wife the other day, if you put $1,000 in the bank, What happens to it? She goes, well, it's in the bank. And I go, so if you want to get it anytime, you can just go to the bank and ask for it, and they'll give you your $1,000, right? And she goes, yeah, right. And I go, what if I told you that when you put the $1,000 in the bank takes the $1,000
and they reinvest it. I don't even think that's actually true. I don't think that's true of small lenders. That used to be true. I don't think that's actually the case anymore.
Pluck out 1/10 of it, roughly, about $100, and they lend $900 to another guy. Let's say Steve right here. But
it's funny, like he says something like this is old. This is like an old idea. But he presents it as like, oh, it's amazing thing that he knows that the rest of the population doesn't know, and it's such a gift that he's informing us of it. Bro, this is an old talking point. Super old.
They don't actually give him the money either. They open up a checking account for $900 in his name. So now you have two guys who both think that they've got the same $900 in the bank, but it doesn't even end there. Let's say that Steve has a deposit in another bank.
Oh my god.
He goes to the other bank, let's call it Wells Fargo.
People that just like never shut the fuck up, and they just go on like stories, and they just tell long fucking winded stories. The most annoying fucking thing in the world.
Deposits is $900. What does that bank do? They take the $900, set aside $90, and loan $810 to another guy, or open up a checking account in his name. What I'm getting at is, whose $1,000 is it? And the answer is the bank, by a cartel arrangement allowed by the Federal Reserve. This would be fraud in any other area. So
how the fuck is it fraud? It's part of the contract that you sign. They lend the money out, but you have a guarantee that they'll be able to pay you that money back out anyways. It's called the FDIC. Oh man, I think I'm breaking this goddamn thing again. Fucking hell. Alright, I'll have to re-glue this at some point. Probably should just remove this piece and do it individually. So fragile. There we go. Probably should just do it the right way. Probably should though.
But wouldn't it be fraud? What you're explaining, it's called fractional reserve banking, and it's what every country on the planet does. But then when your wife says, "Can I get that $1,000?" would you tell her no?
No, I would tell her that. I would tell her yes. I would tell her, because even though the money is fictional, it has already been lent out.
It's not fictional.
If you go to the bank, let's just say all of us tomorrow decide to go to the bank and collect our money, and the bank didn't have it. What would they do? Answer: phone call to the Federal Reserve. Print the money. So the backstop of all of this is the unlimited ability of the Federal.
I don't think it even works that way. I don't think they're allowed to just go to the Federal Reserve and just ask for any amount of fucking money. I think there would be I think there are regulations on how much. There's regulations on how much they're supposed to reserve in the bank. By the way, that's part of how they influence interest rates. The Federal Reserve influences the interest rates. They have to maintain a certain amount in their reserves. They're not allowed to just kind of lend all of it out and then run the bank dry. And these were regulations that were changed due to the Great Depression, and they were also changed due to the 2008 financial crisis. I can't wait for this stupid debate to be over. Holy shit, this is fucking boring.
federal government to prevent bank runs of the kind that occurred in the Depression.
Yeah.
Correct. That's why
by
some things
running
are called FDIC insured. So, like a savings account would be an FDIC insured product by the bank. Wouldn't it be better for that $1,000 deposited into the bank instead of just rotting there collecting dust to be mobilized in the economy so that people could actually do something with it, like have a mortgage for a house or invest in a business or do literally anything else besides sit there as termite food?
Okay, so I don't think we need to go into this because you don't even know what you're talking about.
What did I just say that was wrong? What did I just say?
Federal-
Explain to me the velocity of money. Explain to me why it's not good to have money sitting in a bank doing nothing than it is for it to be mobilized in an economy. Tell me.
Okay. No, we're not disagreeing about mobilizing the money. We're disagreeing about the mechanism of doing it and who is left holding the bag. So in the 19th century, we had no Fed. The United States became the largest economy in the world. In the 19th century, we had fractional banking. But if banks couldn't meet their obligations, they went bankrupt. And so there was free market competition among the banks. It was to prevent that free market competition that the Fed was set up. Essentially, what the Fed decided to do
what the year is 2025, and you want to emulate the banking system we had when there were cowboys and Indians when in the 19th, 18th century. How far back do you want to go? We live in a modern world that has modern demands for our monetary system. Why does no other country on the planet employ the obviously superior form of banking that you're talking about?
Oh good, you made it to our meeting. What? You didn't realize we have one right now? This AI meeting assistant is recording our conversation and transcribing everything I say. So we don't need to take notes. But let's be honest, none of us want to read through a long transcript. That's why Otter AI automatically summarizes the key points and creates action items. It captures everything, even slides that were shown, and packages it up perfectly. Here's where it gets incredible. It's like ChatGPT for your meetings. You know, you can ask any question about this meeting or any past meeting. What decisions did we make? What were our favorite ideas from that brainstorming session 5 months ago? Otter remembers everything. Try Otter AI free, be fully present in meetings, and let AI handle the
Bro,
rest.
shut up, dude. All these AI applications, like the stupidest thing. Like, oh, here's an AI that helps you add 2 + 2 = 4. Okay, cool. Let me know when it actually does something interesting. Here's an AI that keeps track of all your documents. Oh, that's interesting. I have a thing called a fucking file folder on my goddamn computer. I can name them different names, and I can bring up any document that I need anytime. I could do a fucking Control F search and find, whichever document that I need or whatever word within the document. What do I need the fucking AI for? It's overcomplicating it. They have like this technology that they invested in. They're trying to make a money return on it, and that's what it is. And they're shoveling out shovelware with this AI shit for stuff that's like mundane and not really all that interesting. Is I don't know. I don't know. Bro, I'm just annoyed. I need to play a fucking video game. I'm tired of this fucking debate. I'm annoyed, and I know I'm rambling. I know I'm repeating myself, but like I'm just not having fun with this goddamn fucking debate.
It is in the interest of every single.
Here, let's 2x this shit.
Every state has
Goddamn
recognized
shit
for
done, bro.
thousands of years that controlling the money supply is the key to controlling the wealth of the country. That is what in the.
Okay, even if I don't know. I mean, I think that that's not technically wrong, right? But controlling the wealth of the country. What do we have to show for that in the United States? We have the wealthiest country in the fucking world. So he poses this as if it's a nefarious thing, but the reality is that this gives the government some ability to, not allow the economy of the United States to go tits up. And you know what? They've done a pretty goddamn good fucking job of it. Clearly, obviously, the results are in.
Era of gold, what the governments used to do is take the gold coin and dilute the coin. Put base metal into the coin. So the coin, which was supposed to be pure gold, is now only 50% gold or 30% gold. So this racket has been going on for a long time.
So do you think Trump should get rid of FDIC insurance?
It's not a racket, bro. It works out pretty fucking well. Very clearly, right? We have the best economy in the world. Our economy is more advanced, larger in volume. It's pulled more people out of poverty than any time in world fucking history. Okay, that goddamn site screwed. That suit's gonna be fucking gentle. I have to be careful with it. And what do? I put it right on that fucking skirt that's still held on.
Insurance and fractional reserve banking.
FDI insurance is a complete illusion.
So we should get rid of it and go back to the gold standard?
Not the gold standard per se, but we should go back to a free banking system, which would include
Full
Bitcoin.
cure is 12 to 24 hours, so I gotta give it some time to fucking cure itself.
Which would include all kinds of currencies.
We're talking about fake money and you support Bitcoin?
Bitcoin is not fake money.
Okay.
You think that something is fake money because, first of all, you give this rhapsody to modern technology, and when finally a form of money is created privately that cannot be inflated, that has a fixed supply, and that in fact...
What do you mean it can't be inflated? It does inflate. That's why it's an investment vehicle at the moment, right? Am I wrong about that? What is he talking about?
Bitcoin has one of the wildest volatility indexes
yes!
on the planet.
Yes! I'm glad, by the way, that like the area of policy that I am a little bit the weakest on is like fiscal, monetary shit, business kind of stuff. But I'm glad that like my intuition when I hear something like that, it stands out to me. I'm glad that I have the wherewithal to understand how fucking stupid that statement sounds.
Besides maybe Zimbabwe.
Do you realize that inflating a currency and volatility have nothing to do with each other? Volatility has to do with the market's appraisal of a new product.
They absolutely do have things to do with each other. If you have a lot of inflation, then it has a lot of goddamn volatility. They're not the same thing, but they are related.
There was extreme volatility around all the internet companies for about 20 years.
There's no volatility around Bitcoin? You don't
There's a lot of volatility around Bitcoin because the market is full of people who look at this thing, don't understand it, and go, what's this? I've never had private money. To me, a dollar bill needs to be said.
Well, bro, then that's not... like, what are you saying then? You're saying that this currency that you're putting all this faith in is susceptible to random fucking people in the market, making it volatile? And that's supposed to be a good thing? What is his argument? Oh, well, people aren't using it the way that it's supposed to be used. Well, yeah, that's because it's susceptible to the influence of random fucking people. Therefore, it's not really doing the thing that you want it to do.
It needs to state on the bill, backed up with the full faith of the U.S. government. Otherwise, it's not money. So this is an ancient way to think. And something like Bitcoin confuses you because it's new.
But so to be clear, it doesn't confuse me.
I don't think it confuses him at all. I don't think anything he said betrays that it confuses. I think he's just pointing out that it inflates really fucking badly and has a lot of volatility, which is true. It does.
It makes it so a country loses complete and total control of their monetary
Exactly, and that's why you oppose it, because you are a statist and you want your government to control the money supply.
No, I oppose it because I took econ in high school and I realized that there's a value to a country being able to control their currency.
What is that value?
Well, in times of great economic depression, sometimes it's nice to be able to inflate your currency a little more because that's a preferential state of affairs than half the country going unemployed. Or like we did during the Great Depression. Or at other times, it might be nice to pull back on your currency if you want to deflate a market that might be running a little bit too hot, like the run-up to the 2008 housing crisis.
So I reject this whole...
We stand in opposition to central banking across the entire planet.
No, this is a whole Keynesian understanding that is itself has all these embedded false assumptions.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, this guy has like this laissez-faire, right-wing, libertarian-esque economic policy. The issue with this, and a lot of people, I fell for this when I was younger too. They see it as like, the current system is bad, and therefore the grass is greener on the other side. And then you get like this narrative that comes around like, oh, the reason why it's all bad is because of the current system, the way the current system works. Okay, where's this libertarian economic system that runs on a gold standard that's better than the system that we have now? It doesn't fucking exist. Yes, the system we have isn't perfect. There's no system in the world that is ever perfect, but the system that we currently have is the most successful system in the history of mankind, period. End of sentence.
The false assumptions are that you've got this thing called, quote, the money supply. That the money supply is kind of like something that can be regulated with a faucet. You turn it up, you turn it down.
Clearly it can. I mean, his whole argument this past couple of minutes has been that you can control it, and that's a bad thing. And now he's trying to say like, oh, the false notion that you can't control it. Yeah, clearly, bro. That's the whole point. That's the thing that you have an issue with.
Keynes' justification in the 1930s for an unlimited welfare state. Keynes was very explicit about his motives. He's very explicit about what he was trying to do. Frankly, he was not even an economist, but nevertheless...
And here it is. This is the ideological reason why he can't accept the reality of what we can empirically see as true. Right, is because he thinks, oh, if we have Keynes, if we have this style of economic system, it's going to lead to welfare, which is socialism, and that's bad.
He advanced this theory, which has been regurgitated to economic students for almost a century now. All I'm saying is that money is valid. No money has intrinsic value. The $20 bill has no intrinsic value either. So if you say Bitcoin doesn't have intrinsic value, neither does a $20 bill. By the way, neither does gold if you don't count earrings and ornaments.
To be clear,
money,
the dollar has value because the U.S. government accepts it as payment for taxes. Nobody has to accept Bitcoin as payment.
Exactly. So whoop-de-doo, I take my Bitcoin, I change it to US dollars, and I pay my taxes.
If somebody's willing to buy it from you, yes. But you can't pay your U.S. taxes or U.S. debt
Right.
obligations in Bitcoin.
So
Dinesh and Stephen, we do have about 15 minutes left, just so you guys know. And I thought maybe we should touch on Trump and political violence, if you feel like it.
Well, we actually haven't talked about the topic of our debate, which I took to be whether Trump on net is a good thing or a bad thing for America. And so I'd like to say a word about why I think, a little bit about Trump, the man, and a little bit about what I think he's done for the country. And then maybe you can say the same, and we can kind of get to the heart of what we're talking about. So to me, Trump's first term was very positive for the most part, but kind of blasé. He was stopped in his tracks by 2 years of Russia collusion hoax, but he got a lot of things done, and the economy was in better shape.
He was stopped in his tracks by Russia collusion hoax. This is the kind of thing that people say that if you don't even think about, you don't realize how stupid it sounds. How was he stopped in his tracks by Russian collusion? What exactly, right? He was the president. He had all the same powers as president that he currently does right now. What about the quote-unquote Russian collusion hoax kept him from doing what he wanted to do? The reality is there's nothing that kept him from doing what he wanted to do. He did what he wanted to do at that time period, but he's a fucking idiot and he doesn't have good policy. And the Republicans don't have good policy, and it didn't amount to anything positive for the country. That's it.
Manifestly pre-COVID, in March of 2020, leading up to the election. Quite frankly, had it not been for COVID, I don't even think election fraud could have helped Joe Biden. But Trump was hit by this, was sideswiped by COVID. But, and that's a fact, Jane Fonda basically said COVID is God's gift to the left. So if you can't see the truth of that, I don't know what to say to you.
How are you sideswiped? The country, like especially the White House, they knew about this for months. In fact, I knew about it before it even hit the United States. I think I knew about it in October or something, because it made news reports that there was a virus in, China or whatever. They knew about it. It's his fault. He fucking bungled it, and he turned it into a political issue, and he couldn't get the country together on it because he had to turn it into a Republican versus Democrat thing. Shit, I mean, he could have stopped it at the fucking border if he wanted to, but he played games with it.
The years of Biden were essentially the years of taking the American bus and driving it straight to the cliff. In foreign policy, with the Afghan disgrace. In domestic policy, inflation goes to the highest level that it was. You have to go back to the 70s, to the OPEC era, to find inflation rates of 9%. Biden achieved that. An open.
Is there anything interesting in here? I gotta move on because this shit's annoying. His voice is annoying the fuck out of me.
United States sells stuff abroad, and other,
like we've done with the tariffs. You acknowledge
between a trade deal and a hostage swap, and actual benefit to U.S. citizens is a matter of completely different view.
Import taxes. Do you admit that a tariff is an import tax?
A tariff is an import tax that can be borne either by the no, it doesn't follow. It can be borne either by the producer or the consumer.
It's paid for by the consumer.
Okay, economic illiteracy 101. Let's look at an example. No, false. Let's say I'm Mercedes.
Okay. I'm done. I can't do it anymore. His voice annoys the shit out of me. It's just the same. You know what kind of blows my mind is that he's supposed to be like this, like right-wing intellectual, and I don't know if they've just gotten dumber over time, or I'm older and I recognize this shit now more than I did back then. Like, nothing that he said in this debate was even like unique or interesting. It's just the same bullshit that they repeat all the fucking time. He's not even original. He can't even think for himself. He's just repeating like and honestly, like, he should be smarter than this. He should be. But like the entire MAGA Republican thing, like they all just kind of jump on the bandwagon and they make themselves stupider as a result. There's nothing interesting that he repeated in this whole fucking debate. It's the same tired, boring fucking talking points. Alright. I need a fucking chill pill. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a break after this. I'll go get something to eat. And then I'll probably come back and I don't know, play a little video game or something. I need a palate cleanser from that dog shit. Holy fuck. That was grating. That was terrible. I don't know why I subjected myself to that nonsense. I was wondering actually. I was looking at this yesterday. I couldn't see anywhere on the box where it tells you how many actual pieces this thing has. I'm kind of curious, you know. It doesn't intimidate me at all. You could add 1,000 pieces. At the end of the day, you're just clipping these things out and then sticking them together. You're not really doing anything super intellectual. The same thing with Legos. I remember when I was a kid, I used to play with a lot of Legos. I have a large Lego collection, by the way. I'm trying to liquidate it. But you know, I would have like parents and older people. Oh, that's really cool. I can't believe you put that together. That's so complicated. And it's like, I'm literally just following instructions in a book, and they just like click together. It's not really that hard. It's enjoyable. It's fun. I like it. But like, you know, you're not using your brain. Is that piece in there? I don't remember that fucking piece. I like the way you kiss me. I can tell you miss me. I can tell this. Well, you know, let's talk about some things. You know, beside these debates, let's just talk about like current events. What's going on? So we have like the potential war in Venezuela. Republicans are making a repeat of the Iraq and Afghanistan war. The American people learned fucking nothing, absolutely nothing, from that Iraq and Afghanistan war. They trusted the same stupid party that got us into it. And that same party is going to get us into another one potentially. Because we didn't learn anything. Isn't that fun? Isn't that great? Where's this piece? M12. There's a piece M18 that apparently I used earlier. Oh, I didn't make these side screens. That's okay. Where's this M piece? I don't see it. Apparently I clipped it earlier. I don't recognize it. Okay, I'm gonna leave that one there. Anything off of this guy? I think I got everything off of that guy. I don't think there was anything on here that I took out from last time. Nope. Let's put these back in the box. Get them the fuck out of the way. Let's see. Anything in here? Don't think so. Put that away for now. I think this one's done. I like took everything out of this one. That one's done. I think I got everything I needed out of this guy. At least for now, right? To build legs. I don't think I took anything out of this one. Not this time around. I'm a little bit curious how they make these. I don't think it's super complicated. I'm just curious. Like I'm not like, oh my god, that's so amazing. I imagine that there's like injection molding, so they have like a mold and they just inject it with plastic. I think the thing that really kind of interests me is how do they get the level of detail? So like you look at a piece like this, right? I don't know if you're gonna be able to see that detail. Yeah, you kind of can. You see like those little indentations, those little lines? How do you get a mold to produce that level of detail? That's what I'm curious about. And these model kits aren't necessarily that expensive. And so whatever process they use must be pretty quick, must be pretty like not super resource intensive. So that's what I'm curious about is how do they do that? Kind of want to look this up. Let's see here.
Okay, I'm Mercedes-Benz, and I'm
How
charging.
are
Let me
Hold on,
because I already know what the
explain
explanation.
it.
No, because I already know the explanation. May I do it faster? You're going to say that the technical.
Okay. Goddamn. Interesting. Let's see this. What? Dream job, am I right? Jesus Christ, I'd like to work there. That looks so fun as fuck. What the hell? Wow. I would have never guessed they did this shit by hand. Okay. Be nice if you had some like words or somebody explaining.
YouTube ads is made for your business. Bring your brand to life with targeted.
Are you serious? Another one where they're not going to tell me anything? Okay, so it looks like they have like a metal mold that they use a CNC to carve out like very small detail. I suppose seems like what's actually happening is that you do just use that mold and you inject it with plastic under high pressure, and I guess the plastic and the mold is able to produce very fine details. That's what I'm gathering from this. High pressure. How do Gundam kits have such small tolerances? Stop, leave me alone, I'm not in the mood. High quality precision engineered injection molding process, expert design and economy of scale. The goal is to create parts that snap together securely. Bandai invests in high quality still molds that are precisely manufactured and regularly maintained. This ensures consistency and minimal variance even after thousands of production cycles. The parts are designed with specific tight clearances, often a fraction of a millimeter, allowing them to fit together snugly through friction. The designers are experts at breaking down complex mobile suit designs into numerous small parts that connect flawlessly. Advanced manufacturing. The injection molding machines are precisely calibrated to manage variables such as plastic temperature, injection speed, and cooling, which all affect the final part dimensions. Although not immune to occasional issues, Bandai generally maintains stringent quality control checking. Okay. As an example, in building incredible MiG-31, the parts can be assembled prior to painting, fit together so well that they barely need glue. In contrast, a layer of paint will make fitting together parts that need prior painting an absolute nightmare. Okay. You shouldn't bond painted surfaces though. I mean, the glue will melt the paint, but it's okay. Whatever. Why is he so loose? Want to see how your favorite? Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I got my answer. It's not in the level of detail that I want, but that's okay. For those of you that don't know, I have an engineering background, and so when I ask something like this, I don't want just a simple explanation. I want to go fucking deep into like, okay, how are they really getting these tolerances? What pressure are they using for these molds? What are the maximum tolerances? Ah, fuck. What's the material properties of, I guess they use a lot of ABS is what I hear. Is ABS, is it able to fill in small cavities very easily without warping and stuff like that? That's the kind of thing that I want to know. Alright, let's see. Is there anything else that we can kind of react to or something in the moment? Oh, let's just talk a little bit. So we had I watched shout out to Papa Get. I watched Papa Get's reaction to the Erica Kirk interview. A lot of the media right now is like they're so eager to normalize conservatism. Conservatism is like the DI of political ideologies at the moment. Their ideas don't work out in academia, so they accused academia of discrimination against their ideas. So now a lot of academia is caving to conservative bullshit. You have the media in general. The media in general, like the media, when Barry Weiss was giving this interview, she was like, "We want to have more conversations that that I guess something along the lines of like normalizing, the different sides of conversations and allowing people to have a discourse." And I was just thinking in the back of my mind, like, you guys only really do that for conservatives, because where have you had in the media, the mainstream media, bringing on like leftists and having leftists describe their ideology? They don't, right? There isn't the pressure to do so. There isn't like that same cultural pressure to have to do so, even though the media shuns leftists out of the political space. I'm not even a leftist, by the way. I don't have to advocate for leftists. I don't have to advocate for libertarians, but like, if you guys are really doing all this because like, oh, we just want to, give everybody's voice a chance, well then why don't you have the voices of these other groups? You don't do it. You only do it for conservatives, because conservatives bitch and complain about all the goddamn time. So that was one thing that stood out to me. The other thing that stood out is like she just doesn't really have the same charisma that her husband probably does for the camera and for, that kind of speaking role. She tried to come off sometimes as like being profound and being inspirational, but it came off a little bit try hard. I'm not gonna be one of those people that goes so far as to say like, oh, she didn't really love her husband, she's just in love with the camera or whatever the hell it may be. I don't know. Maybe she is, maybe she isn't. I'm not gonna speculate on that. I don't think it's productive. I don't think it makes you look good to do that. I think it makes you look petty. What I will say though is that her taking over for his role, I just don't think she's got it. I just don't think she has that same knack for rhetoric and delivery and everything. It just wasn't really there. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that the right talks a lot. She was talking a lot about this. Barry Weiss was talking a lot about this whole idea of like, we should have the ability to have different ideas and it not coming down to violence, and that's what makes it beautiful, and that's how we healed the divide or whatever, and stuff like that. And conservatives will say this all the time. They'll say it in defense of themselves, in defense of their ability to kind of propagandize and all that good stuff. But the reality is that what Charlie Kirk, and everybody keeps saying this thing about like, oh, Charlie Kirk was like he just wanted to engage in free speech. He just wanted to have a dialogue, and it's like, no, he didn't, bro. The administration that he supported was anti-free speech, anti-free media. The administration that he supports right now, even before he died, was denying people's visas, going after schools for their speech, going after news stations for their speech. The reality is that what Charlie Kirk and the conservatives do is they want free speech so that they can spread their message, no matter how extreme or how misleading or unfactual their messages are. That's what they care about. They care about free speech in that regard. They care about free speech insofar as it's able to help them push their political project. But once they're in power, they don't give a fuck about free speech. They absolutely do not whatsoever. They play lip service to it when they're out of power. Once they're in power, they're going to do everything in their power to try to monopolize the media like they're doing right now, try to pressure the media into conforming to their views, right? And this whole idea that they've ever been into freedom or free speech, they constantly talk about assimilation all the goddamn time. Those things are antithetical to each other. You can't really have both. You're either for freedom or you're for assimilation. If you want to push assimilation, if you want everyone to assimilate, then you are fundamentally saying that you don't want people to be different, to think different, to look different, to act different. You can't have it both ways. And our media and debaters and stuff, I don't think they've caught on to this point. This is a really important point to make, and it's important to point it out. Like, you guys cannot have it both ways. You can't have assimilation while at the same time pretending that you give a fuck about free speech and about freedom and liberty. It doesn't work that way. So that was another thing with the whole Eric Kirk thing. I think the whole thing has lost momentum. I think right after his death, there's a lot of people that didn't really know who he was. There's a lot of people that kind of bought into the image that they were trying to sell about him, the martyrdom that they were trying to sell him as. But I think the general population, what they found is most people just don't really fucking care either way. That's number one. And then a lot of people, became more aware of him and realized, like, despite how the right has tried to, frame him as like this godly, righteous person, he was actually a very controversial, kind of smug, kind of arrogant, kind of assholey political operative. And there's a lot of people who are very religious, or very like conservative, Christian, or not even conservative, but just like Christian, and they'll be very sympathetic to someone who's Christian, right? But I think a lot of people realized as time progressed, like, he isn't just like this religious figure. He wasn't just like this person who wanted to have a dialogue. He wasn't just this person that was trying to bring people together. He was a political operative. And I think that soured the taste in a lot of people's mouths, because I think a lot of people initially were very sympathetic, but then when you had like the media trying to turn him into like a forced martyr, a forced like cultural figure that we're all supposed to get behind or whatever, and when people realize that it's all part of like this political project, I think that grossed a lot of people out and made a lot of people realize, like, oh, this whole Charlie Kirk thing is a lot more nefarious, a lot more manipulative, a lot more dishonest than, we were initially led to believe. And so I think a lot of that sympathy is kind of gone now at this point. Like, even if you're not someone who is anti-conservative, anti-Republican and everything, I think it still leaves a weird taste in your mouth when you realize that the way the right was trying to frame it was very dishonest. And then another point, when he went to schools and people tell you, oh, he just wanted to have conversations, he was killed because he just wanted to talk to people. He was killed because, he just wanted to, engage with people. Like, that's not really what he was doing. That's not really what he was about. He didn't go to schools in order to simply just talk to people and bring people together and have like a constructive dialogue. He went over there to demonize certain groups. He went over there to make people look foolish, to make him look like a fool, to make himself and his political faction look better by contrast. He went there to humiliate people, to make them look stupid, to be smug, to be condescending, to dominate and stuff like that. Which, by the way, like, that's politics, right? That's politics. That's fair. You're allowed to do that. That's fair and all. But like, when the right tries to frame it as he was killed just because he was just trying to talk to people and just have a dialogue, they make it sound like he was like going to schools as like Mother Teresa and he was trying to bring people together and foster understanding. No, he was a political operative. He was trying to push his politics in the school, and he was trying to make the other side look stupid by comparison. And that's fair game in politics, but it's not. You're not Mother Teresa for doing that. Okay, you're just not. Sorry. And then when they talk about like feel bad for Charlie Kirk because you know you have children now who are without a father and this and that, and it's like, you know what? I feel bad for kids who are separated from their parents for one reason or another. That's terrible for the kids. But the reality is that Charlie Kirk, his political faction, his wife, all his associates, they were all perfectly fine with destroying families. They were all fine with sending people to torture death camps without due process. They were fine with demonizing people, with dehumanizing people, with targeting marginalized communities. So for them to like turn around and now demand the rest of the population is supposed to like feel bad for them when they weren't willing to have the same consideration for other people, I find that behavior incredibly fucking disgusting. And I'm not going to pretend like other people do that that's not the case. I'm not going to sit there when like the interview that Erica Kirk had, where the hosts are like, we're just trying to bring people together, and we're just trying to have a conversation, and it's terrible that, that he would kill this person, and to leave a family like that, you should have some compassion in your heart for blah 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 blah. And it's like, you don't have compassion for other people. Your kids are innocent. Your kids haven't done anything. I don't blame your kids at all, right? But I'm also not going to play this game with you where you demand respect, you demand consideration, you demand empathy that you're not willing to give to other people. No, fuck you. You're gross. You're disgusting. That kind of behavior is an extra level of evil, extra level of manipulative, and yeah, it's gross to me. So there was that part. What else? The interview, it was like just full of softball questions. They didn't really have any representation for the other side at all. Really, they didn't really present like a fair representation of why he's a controversial figure, why the other side feels a certain way. Like, imagine if the media had done that with a liberal figure, and they brought him on, and they did a whole puff piece for them, and they didn't ask him any challenging questions. They didn't have any conservatives on to ask any like conservative challenges, and they just let him get away with it. The right would lose their fucking mind. The right would never shut the fuck up about it. The entire population would be like, oh, the media is being biased. It's not being fair. But the media is biased for conservatives in this case, and everybody just turns a blind eye to it. They just treat it like it's, whatever. Like, conservatives are entitled to it because if we don't do this thing for all these conservatives, then they're gonna throw a fucking tantrum. And I think that's the reality. I think a lot of people know that deep down, but they're not admitting it to themselves. I think it's worth pointing out to society now at this point was that I think most people in society recognize that conservatives are like big fat fucking crybabies, and whenever they don't get their way, they bitch and complain about everything, and they make a conspiracy about everything. And so I think the population gives them like favorable coverage, favorable treatment that they don't give to other people because the rest of the population is like, these people, if you don't do that, then they're gonna act like Karens about it. So I mean, that was another thing I wanted to mention. Apparently the Epstein files released tomorrow. We'll see what that's gonna look like. It's hard for me to imagine that the Trump administration isn't gonna try to pull some bullshit, that they didn't try to redact his name out of fucking everything. So we'll see how that goes. I hear that the Republicans are fleeing Capitol Hill. They've been saying for a while in the media. This is something that I want to give you guys some like fair warning on. The media has throughout the Trump administration constantly made these points that, oh, you know, there's a lot of Republicans behind the scenes who disagree, and there's a lot of these Republicans who they're going to resign and they're actually going to you know, flip on him and everything. And they do that, and then nothing happens. And then a few months later, they do the same thing. They talk about it again, and then nothing happens, right? I kept hearing these stories in the media in the past few weeks of like, there's like all these Republicans who are going to retire and they're not going to return to the Senate anymore and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, I'll believe it when it happens because they keep saying this kind of stuff and it never happens. So I'm telling you that because don't get your hopes up. Don't, you know, run away with these stories. Don't make like a big hoopla about it because you're going to make yourself look kind of foolish and like you're wasting time and energy in something that's like a pipe dream. It's not going to happen. Republicans are not going to be abandoning Trump anytime soon. You're not going to have all these Republicans that are going to mass retire anytime soon. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. It's just not. What else? What else is going on lately? What other things have I missed out on that I haven't covered? Let's see. I want to, you know, remind people to refrain from taking the bait on every little thing. I think that there was good awareness of that at the beginning of the Trump administration 2.0, because that was a mistake that we made last time. But I do see people kind of falling back into those impulses. And so I'm trying to think of like a good example of a story that's come out recently where it's, oh, like for example, there's Trump's chief of staff, I think, who I guess gave an interview where she was saying like, oh, Trump has like an alcoholic's personality and Elon Musk is on ketamine and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, at this point, how many people that have worked for like the Trump administration, either Trump 1.0 or Trump 2.0, have like did tell-all books or did interviews or leaked information came out, right? We know all this already. None of this is new information. None of these are new claims. And I'm just gonna, you know, advise people like maybe note it, but like move on because otherwise you just sound like a broken record to other people. And you already know that like this is not going to really shift the needle. It hasn't shifted the needle before. So, you know, don't linger on it. Don't, you know, make 50 fucking social media posts to your friends and family about it. Choose your battles. Be strategic with what you're using your energy on, what you're focusing people's attention on. Don't do stuff that people are either numb to or you're going to make them numb to. Okay, what else? Doge unceremoniously disbanded. Didn't solve any of the issues that the Republicans set out to have it do. Just destroyed a lot of social programs. Here's an important thing that I think you should bring up rhetorically. Remind people who supported it, people who like, you know, downplayed and everything. The program did not really save any meaningful amount of money. It was an absolute fucking failure. But what it did do is it killed hundreds of thousands of kids in other countries who are relying on aid. And so I would ask people who were like cheering and screaming when Doge first came in and started dismantling the government and everything, how much money did you actually save on your taxes from all that? You killed a couple 100,000 kids. How much money did it cost you? Like what was the price for that? Did you save like $5? Did you save $30 maybe? Did you save anything? Because I don't think the most people saved anything at all, because the economy, the inflation, well, inflation's not super high right now, but it is ticking back up. But the economy's not really doing well. So, you know, what did we gain from all that? What did we gain from killing off a couple 100,000 kids? There's nothing. There's nothing really real or tangible to point to. Prices are going to be increasing because of like this tariff shit. Unemployment's ticking back up. Job growth is slowing down. So looks like our microphone's close to dying, so I probably should wrap it up pretty soon here. But I want to finish trimming off these nubs, and then I'll get something to eat, come back, I'll probably start a new stream, do something a little bit more engaging for me anyways, and play like a video game or something. I'll dive back into Knights of the Old Republic, try to finish off some of those storylines that I had started such a long time ago. But what else? What else is going on? What else is in the news that we need to talk about? Oh, here's one thing that's been bothering me. Leftists. Leftists, not progressives, right? Progressive is someone who's kind of in between your more moderate liberals and your leftists, but progressives are, they're not the same, right? David Pakman is a progressive, sorry. He's not really a leftist. Emma Vigeland is more of a leftist. She's not really a progressive. Hassan Piker is more of a leftist, not really progressive. Elizabeth Warren is more of like a progressive strain, right? There's been leftists, I'm sorry, there's been leftists that have been like trying to make this case that, oh, you know, Kamala Harris didn't deserve our vote. She lost the election because it was her fault and it was the Democrats' fault and blah, 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 right? Just remind these people, never let them get away with this. You had the power to vote. You had the power to have some influence in the outcome of the future. You decided not only to throw the Gazans under the bus because the Trump administration has been worse for them, you decided to throw your own country under the bus. And, you know, when you try to pretend that you withheld your vote in protest because you care about marginalized communities, you didn't give a fuck about the trans people in the United States. You didn't give a fuck about women's rights in the United States. You didn't give a fuck about all the Latinos in the United States. You didn't give a fuck about all these other, you know, marginalized communities. Call their bluff on that. Call them out on that. Don't let them get away with that. It's bullshit, right? You had the opportunity to try to protect these people in the United States, and you decided to throw a massive fucking tantrum and decided to throw everybody under the bus because you weren't getting 100% of what you wanted. It's not working out for the Palestinians. Palestinians aren't better off for it. But also, all these other marginalized groups in the U.S. are also not better off for it. And I would ask them, like, okay, you are a single issue voter around Gaza. You care about these Palestinian people. Are you telling me that the lives of Latinos don't matter? Only Palestinians matter? The lives of Latinos didn't matter to you? The lives of transgender people didn't matter to you? The lives of women in this country didn't matter to you? The lives of black people in this country didn't matter to you? The only people you care about are the Palestinians? That's it? Force them to have to answer that. Force them to have to confront that. Because the reality is that it is bullshit. If you're a progressive, if you're a genuine progressive, you are strategic with your vote, you're thoughtful with it, you aren't a single issue voter, and you're protecting more than one people. That's basically the difference between us and conservatives. Conservatives only give a fuck about themselves and their immediate group of people. Progressives are supposed to care about all the different people in society, all the different people who aren't exactly like them, all the different people, all of them, not just one group, all of them. And a lot of these leftists, they threw all these fucking people under the bus. Never let them fucking forget that. They absolutely threw all these people and their rights under the fucking bus. And they're rendering themselves and us potentially unable to ever, all those issues that they complain about, they threw the planet under the bus. Climate change, threw that under the bus. All these issues that they pretend that they care about, if they're making it harder in the future for them to ever have any ability to change policy, to have influence on that policy, then call them out on that. It doesn't seem like you actually care. It seems like you're virtue signaling. I used to hate that term back in the day, but the reality is actually I've come to realize that a lot of people on the left, they do just virtue signal. They don't care about real political power. They don't really care about being strategic. They don't care about actually doing things to realistically effectuate a positive outcome for the planet. They just want to signal to other people that they care more about issues than other people do, that they're more pure than other people do. But if you are contributing to outcomes that are making it worse for all those issues that you purport to care about, then you don't actually really genuinely care about those issues. It's just a fucking game for you. Fuck you, by the way. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna go get something to eat. I'm not the same when I'm hungry, so I'm gonna get something to eat. I'll be back in a little bit, okay?